Hey everybody, welcome to the second turn for the August tournament of UD6. I'm with Mythical. How are you doing?
Fantastic as always, Twin. We had sort of a twist of fate, a karma, I guess, happened. So LF, who was unable to compete in the July tournament, gave a spot to Skunkoff. And this time it's his turn to come in ninth. It was Ryuka was unable to compete today, so LF is going to be joining our top 8 who are going to be competing today. We're going to narrow that down to 4 who are going to go on to the finals of our August tournament, and top 2 will qualify for the grand finals, which sounds like the end of things, but there is, in the Ultime Decathlon, the ultimate finals live in France. So there is another step, lots of steps, basically. To do well today does not necessarily mean that you will end up on top. We have in this beautiful infographic that maybe is a little hung up here, so you don't get to see this wonderful animation going on in the background, but that's okay. The key information is still all available, even with one glorious still frame, and this gives you an idea of kind of what's going on.
Okay, so we are at exactly the middle of that those 9 spots on the left side. So we've done all the July tournament. It was during the month of July, and during August we got an interesting plays off with Upday. Look at that, too fast, oh my god. Okay. French restream is going way faster than us. So we got like a very cool tourney last week with 16 runners, very close, way closer than the usual, where we have some of the top runners that go way faster than the other at learning, and the other like take a little bit of time to catch up, but we are in that catch-up phase now. Devil Tifa, Brother Main kinda stopped playing since they already qualified for the grand finals, and now it's their turn for Cute Shadow, Skunkoff, The Mask, Ghostess, Fireman, Kerpui, Quick Sablier, and LF, who qualified beautifully. Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, especially. Skunkoff was a lot of people were waiting for them because they failed at the final of the July tournament. So that was 3 weeks ago. They got like an incredible July tournament and surprised a lot of people with their performances. So we'll just see how that works for them. Today, obviously, we are going to play the 5 other games, as we did last week, and Shovel Knight is the big one today, I'd say.
Yeah, we can see this Shovel Knight bar on Skunkoff's player card is, not as high as some of these other bars, but boy, it's not very high on anyone's cards. So comparatively, Skunkoff actually has a really strong Shovel Knight. Not the strongest of the pack, but definitely on the strong end. As well as take a look at that Trials in the bottom right. That bright orange is kind of Skunkoff's biggest strength in the entire Ultime Decathlon. It was not one of the games last week. It is going to be played today. So look for Skunkoff to pick up a big chunk of points over pretty much everyone else on that game. And, had to compete in all 10 games the previous week. So is kind of no slouch anywhere, really. So he's going to be a big threat. We've also got Cute Shadow, who has been working a lot on Trials this past week, but is also pretty strong in Shovel Knight. Aria of Sorrow, or has been working on Shovel Knight, sorry, but is still pretty good at Shovel Knight. As we can see, the bar is actually a little better than Skunkoff. And being strong on Shovel Knight and Aria of Sorrow today is very important. These are 2 very, very big games that could really be a problem for some of our other players.
Yeah, today we are starting with Eye of Sorrow, and having a strong time on that game right away will put you in the lead, maybe a little bit stressed out. Just after that we have Trials, and everybody knows that Skunkoff is amazing at Trials. The Mask also on the player card we see right now is doing great with a best race time of 16:51, that's 191 point. which is very good. The mask is only issue here is his Shovel Knight time. His best race time is 1 hour and 8 minutes, almost 9 actually, and he absolutely need to get down to sub-hour today to grab those 100 points you get if you are in time. If you are not in time, you score 0, and that's a huge blow. I do expect all 4 runners to qualify today to have 100 on every game.
I hope that that more than Shovel Knight ends up determining who ends up in the top 4, because we can see Sablier, despite having a really strong Shovel Knight PB, does not have a good race time. It's 9 minutes off of PB, and more importantly, over that 1 hour mark. So sadly, is going to be looking for a really strong Shovel Knight, which should actually be a strength of his compared to the other players today. And as well, also very strong on Inertia. There's not a big gap between best and worst on Inertia in the field today, but Sablier is pretty much right at the top of that field, so hopefully we'll be looking to close the gap between race PB and grind PB on that player card today, and has a pretty good shot of moving on today, despite almost not moving on yesterday. A tragic repeat with a death to King K. Rool in Donkey Kong Country. Ended up scoring a 0. We were wondering how it was going to shake out, but there were enough DKC tragedies that Sablier was able to get enough points in the other games to move on to today. And you know what? We're not playing Donkey Kong Country today, so hopefully he can focus on these other 5 games and qualify for the top 4.
Sablier is one of those runners I can relate to because he's super strong. That I cannot necessarily relate, but he's super stressed out during races. It shows. He plays way better on his own stream, not focusing about like anything, not being stressed out by the competition or the stream. And they are a super strong player, but yeah, sometimes just like dying at King K. Rool right at the end last week was heartbreaking and clearly not a skill issue, just like, I don't know, trying to focus on everything at the same time and not taking the time just to do like one thing after the other. And that's like speedrunning and racing are obviously like very close together there, but you have to be able to forget about everything that happened after it happened during races, just focusing on exactly what you're doing, not thinking too much about splits or anything that could go on your mind when you're grinding, and it's a difficult task, so best of luck to them, I'd say.
Another difficult task will be manipulating soul drops in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. It is a big part of the speedrun, and while we've talked about Creaking Skull before, where most players will reset if they miss it, despite it maybe not being the fastest. It's just that they're unprepared to move on without it. But there are later souls that absolutely are required. You do need to get them somehow. Manipulation, the best way to do so. So we'll be seeing players be forced to do some weird song and dance that we've seen them do a couple times now in the UD to manipulate the RNG and get these souls to drop. And in addition to that, of course, Aria of Sorrow has a ton of movement tech and lots of other ways to save time. I don't know if we're going to be seeing the crazy backdash general movement stuff that I didn't think anyone would do in the UD, but we started seeing from some of the best way at the top who've decided to go to the next level optimizing this game. I think we're going to be seeing just a little more solid, consistent play from the field today. Maybe a safety save or two. There's a couple opportunities to do that without losing too much time. And I'm also wondering about Ghost Death as a player we didn't get to talk about because we're going to be, I think, focusing on 4 others for this first race. But Ghost Death, this is one of the games where Ghost Death does not have a time on the leaderboard. There's not many cases of that in our top 8 today. Ghost Death has 2, actually, in 2 of the biggest games, also in Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
LF does not have a time in Inertia, and Kerpuik does not have a time in DKC, but we're not playing that today. So it is... I have no idea. Ghost Death didn't have times in games yet last week and did fantastic in them, so I don't know what that means.
Well, we'll see. We will focus on Skunkov, Cute Shadow, The Mask, and Sadlier, as they are the fastest runner just for Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. And normally, if everything goes by PB, we would have a chance to take a peek at the end of the race on Ghost Death, LF, Fireman, and Kerpuik. Then later in the tourney, we will focus on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the leaderboard for that tourney, just because that's where the action is going to be at. 1st place and 2nd place should be mostly safe, and hopefully 7th place and 8th place can come back with some good performances, but yeah, here you want to score a maximum of points as you enter Dracula's castle, grabbing the backdash first. A very useful item, very convenient, saves a lot of time if you use it properly. And we will not take the flying armor early, just because, not even at all, just because the backdash allows you to keep your momentum when you jump at the correct moment. So we'll use that to perform 2 little skips that you usually would go using the flying armor.
But for now, the players are going to be resetting the game here, doing a sleep mode, and then continuing to start the RNG from a fixed state. They're now going to be purposefully taking hits and attacking candles and standing in a very particular position, throwing 6 spears here. And with a backdash, then a jump and attack, you'll see these creaking skulls. Souls come out for all the players, so this is great news.
Like, Creaking Skull has a 1% chance of dropping, so that's incredible just to what we've seen. It's a 1 in 10,000 chance, even more than that. But 1 in a million, actually. But they all manipulated the drop, doing exactly the correct inputs at the correct time, killing the enemy at the correct time, which makes it all much better for the rest of the run. Skankov fails the jump here, it's quite tight, but makes it on the 2nd try. Sadlier having trouble, and that's why I was talking about Sadlier. He is very good, but that's the little details he might have trouble with, just starting off a race, maybe overthinking it, and it is not trivial. We take a lot of things for granted, but just that single jump can make you lose a lot of time.
Yeah, this is to keep the speed on the backdash, you need to not press the D-pad for most of this run. Assuming you're not doing the crazy backdash stuff everywhere, you're just holding right to go right, and you're holding left to go left, and this backdash jump kind of throws that out the window. In order to go forwards, you need to not press right until you absolutely have to at the end. So it's a really awkward input to not be holding forward when you're going forward, and it's the kind of thing that if you are impatient and you press it too soon, you'll just won't make it. And that's the kind of thing where if you're nervous, you're very likely to jump the gun on something like that. So not surprised to see that catch a couple players, especially as game number 1, right? They haven't really, the camera hasn't been on them in a sense until just now. So it's a bit of a trial by fire. It got Sadly a little bit. It got The Mask and Skunkov a little bit. They were able to shorten their fall and get back to the left side. And it's given Cute Shadow the early lead here.
Yeah, Cute Shadow, very experienced runner with the UD. He's there since UD2, so that's been 3 years and 50 games learned for them. So maybe the experience is showing a little bit. But Sablier has fantastic execution. He goes for some of those backdashes to save a little bit of time. I'm not sure if that actually saves time for them right now, but that just shows they're in the UD6 for the long run. If they don't make it during this tournament, they have still 2 chances in the September tournament or the last chance tourney, and like being consistent and good as Aria of Sorrow cannot make them any wrong. Like, oh, and the mask dies to the Manticore.
Wow, that is... I think that might be the first time I've seen someone die to the first boss, getting really aggressive. It's just... I mean, the boss does do a lot of damage. It's just that you also do a lot of damage. So as long as you're careful, your damage will end that fight before you even have a chance to worry about that. But, you know, he got hit by just about everything in a pretty bad way. So that is a massive setback for the mask.
Yeah, 4 minutes lost. The time limit is quite generous. Runners can go for like 46 minutes easily, which is 160 points. 140 points, sorry. So you can, like, you still have a lot of margin, a nice margin to go and lose that kind of time. But obviously that's about 30 or 40 points they lost here, and that you don't want that to happen, especially in the first game. And they have to pick it back up, not think about the mistake they've done, and just go full speed on the second try.
Sablier, also in a similar situation in the bottom right corner of the screen, is actually out of MP and jumps into the tail. Did he come into the fight with less MP than normal? His bar was empty, and it didn't do enough damage to finish off the Manticore. It was... I mean, he was playing really defensively the way that you need to, but just the damage wasn't there.
Apparently they saved before Manticore, which is like a very nice race strat for them. So they didn't lose too much. Apparently they don't have the correct sword equipped. So weird little issues for Sablier there. They had like perfect execution going through the rooms up there, but still had trouble on the boss. While Skunkoff and Cute Shadow very close together got the double jump ability, which is like, it's the equivalent of the Super Metroid high jump. You need that to be able to move freely into the rooms. That opens so much more execution-wise, but also like just progression-wise. That's why we go the normal route early into Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. You just need the set of items that just got. So now that we have that double jump, it's time to go a little bit crazy and go directly to the clock tower to fight Death. Super under level, everything is going to hurt a lot, so that's where the speedrun really gets dense.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes for some of our players who are definitely not playing at the level they're used to. The clock tower and the death fight is kind of the biggest roadblock in this run, in this route. Because of the massive difficulty spike, like you said, we are sequence breaking here. So, I mean, we're going to be underleveled from here on out anyway, just because we're running past everything and we're not buying armor and weapons and whatnot. Nice backdash jumps for Cute Shadow, Skunkoff falling a little shy. This is kind of the same principle as the one before. There's just you're just using your double jump afterwards. Second try, no problem for Skunkoff. Seems to be the pattern for him today in Aria of Sorrow. But this clock tower is filled with enemies who are going to do a lot of damage, and the death fight himself, he will kind of two-shot you. I mean, the scythes that spawn throughout the fight don't do quite as much damage as he will, but you cannot afford to get hit by his gigantic two-sided scythe more than once. And he's got a lot of health. It is a long fight, and you might be tempted to speed it up because you're in a speed run, and so you're playing very aggressive, and you're focusing on your short hop sword canceling and slash canceling, and before you know it, you've gotten too close to his scythe, and you eat a big chunk of damage. So it is a tense fight that all the players are going to be a little worried about. But for now, it's going to be Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, who are still, a little ways away here. But we're going to take a detour through the floating gardens, which is you kind of just fly over it. Really, there's a lot of enemies, but they're not close enough, really, that you need to worry about them.
Cute Shadow entered the save room just to heal, so they allowed Skunkoff to catch up almost entirely. But also, if you enter save into a race, would not it be better just to save, to take the extra like 3 or 4 seconds it takes to save? Because you are already there, it's not that much of a detour anymore. And just in case anything happens, I don't know, it's like, would you spare those 3-4 seconds? It's almost a point, so in the UD it puts everything in perspective. You want as much point as you can all the time, but it is something to think about. Obviously, the harder the tourney gets, like the better the runners and the more games there are, you want to take the least risk possible. But I'm curious about the decision making there.
I'm the kind of player who would probably take that save, but it's almost a difference in philosophy more than it is strategy, I think, for a lot of players, whether or not that's the way to go about it or not. That is, I think, where the way a lot of speedrunners make their decisions. So you get a little bit of insight, perhaps, into Cute Shadow, or maybe he wasn't even thinking about it. But yeah. Regardless, he is in the lead just by a little bit. Both Cute Shadow and Skunkoff have been very close to each other, made much closer by that safety trip by Cute Shadow, doing some damage boosting off of these spikes to fall down the clock tower. Falling down much easier than climbing up, so it's an easy start to the clock tower, but it's about to get a lot more difficult.
Yeah. They have 100 extra HP compared to Skunkoff, so if they have the perfect clock tower, they will not have to heal before death, which would be super risky but possible. Not saving before death is always like, it's not a matter of philosophy there, it's just showing confidence. If you know you can 100% do it, yeah, no problem. But if you have the slightest doubt, you totally should save, even if it takes time, because that fight is no joke. Like, really, it's crazy, as I see Cute Shadow like barely dodging all those Medusa heads and makes it finally, while Skunkoff is struggling a little bit there. That room, if you don't get like the first cycle, can get a little bit messy, but did not get hit, so makes it just fine.
Yeah, I liked his execution on the backup there, dodging the enemies, waiting for that cycle on that moving platform. Cute Shadow is going to go ahead and heal and save, and I fully expect Skunkoff to do the same. There he goes.
Oh no, doesn't save!
Okay, so he's all in here on death. We also saw the same safety trip by Sablier that Cute Shadow took as he's heading into the floating gardens, but it's going to be Cute Shadow and Skunkoff in the death fight now. They've got the Mistletoe. They did a little detour to pick up a nice holy elemental weapon for a much needed damage boost for this fight. There would be no way to do this fight pretty much in any kind of sane amount of time without picking up a new weapon like this. The first phase is going well for the players. They're out of MP, so they're going to find these last few hits. A lot of damage.
But yeah, they have 2 potions. They don't want to use it. Skunkoff in a dire situation, 104 HP. He doesn't heal. He doesn't care. Like, he just goes. You know, he can still take like a single hit, and it's okay for them. Cute Shadow already on the second phase. Skunkoff makes it. They will heal between phases. Alright, and that should be a nice kill for them. The second phase is less threatening, even though the scythe deals more damage, it's easier to dodge. As long as Death doesn't like chain the same pattern over and over again, because the middle pattern pushes Death a little bit behind, the up pattern pushes Death upward, and if they only chain like the same patterns, they can get awkward positioning wise. You cannot do the same hits, but it goes nice for them. Cute Shadow and Skunkoff. Cute Shadow should finish first, having a little bit of better hits, and here we go. Q-Shadow will get the Death Soul and leave the room as fast as possible. Waiting for the orb to heal themselves, as Skunkov does not do that, and they will have to go back and heal for the on the save room. So those two things takes about the same time apparently. So it's going to be it's just a choice and habit here.
There was a brief moment where they were in pretty much the same room in the same position, and I was about to point out the sync, but then now there's a big gap as one player saves and another player mismenus because Skunkov got a Red Crow soul drop and accidentally equipped it instead of Skula that they just got from Death. So they have been very close pretty much this whole race, but we don't get that glorious synchronization on the top half of the screen. We can see the Mask, who is quite a bit of ways now, just entering the clock tower and sadly beginning the final ascent up the clock tower. So some pretty big gaps between the players, but at least at the top, the Q-Shadow and Skunkov are doing a good job of keeping it close, as Q-Shadow gets knocked around a little bit by some of these Valkyries in the clock tower, actually going out of his way to hit a Medusa head there on the way down. Quite like that, just a little nope, not having that.
Better backtracking from Skunkov with almost like close the gap. Sadly, I had the opportunity to high-five both runners, which is always nice. They're not too far behind, and the Mask is almost there as well. So the clock tower is a huge area, and being able to be there in the lead. In the menu, menuing very important. We'll see who has the best menuing. Q-Shadow seems to do just fine. That menu is super awkward. You can see only 4 items, and it's pretty hard to do the math on what you're able to afford. So here we go. Skunkov not too far behind, actually.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Definitely saw some extra inputs, some room, some wiggle room there, some time to be saved, something the players could work on. In the grand scheme of things, though, probably not high on the list of priorities. Sablier getting knocked around a bit on the death fight here, is pretty far into the first phase, is really stretching his HP. I'm sure he has a potion, but he is not using it. He's perhaps... Oh, he jumps too high, so he is going to take a death, and that is actually going to be a lead change on the bottom half of the screen. The Mask is going to be stepping into the fight now, going to work with the Creeping Skull, and looking pretty good on the slash canceling. This was something that Q-Shadow was doing a lot of, and Skunkov was really not doing a lot of, was opting to play it much safer, focus on, you know, put your attention towards looking where to stand and dodge, rather than this sort of tapping the jump button and attacking sort of tech that you can do to basically by attacking in the air and landing, you can cancel out of your attack and, you know, jump up and start another one, do it again. So you can sort of increase your attack speed by doing these slash cancels, and obviously it makes a difference in a speedrun, but it's not easy to do. The timing you know, varies by weapon and all kinds of other little factors, so it's something that players will do a little bit here, but it is a trade-off for some players, what they want to do and approach these boss fights and how safe they want to be.
Oh, Skunkov doesn't save again, so the sync between Skunkov and Q-Shadow is real. They are exactly in the same place right now. Oh, Q-Shadow misses like just a step, and yeah, it's okay. It's very nice because those two players have, as you pointed out, two different styles, but do pretty much the same thing during the rooms, except Skunkov doesn't save, and that's enough. That's about like 10 seconds saved for them without just saving at the 2 checkpoints they took. Q-Shadow also took the safety heal before the clock tower, and that's it. Look at that, they are exactly in the same spot. More HP though for Skunkov, who did a better job at getting down there. So that could matter a little bit potion-wise, because the resources you have are very important for you to be able to go through that game at such low level. While Zemask on the bottom part of the screen gets a death down, and Sablier is almost there also, so it's pretty close between the two.
I got really worried when I looked over and saw that health bar, but Death was already defeated.
Double kill!
Double KO! I didn't know that was a thing, but Tai does not go to the
Oh.
runner in this situation with the boss defeated. He is going to have to load and do this fight again.
This is the first
third
time. This is the first time we see that, like the double
Yes.
KO, the death of Soma, while death itself is actually being sucked into the clock tower. Like, wow, that's heartbreaking. And suddenly has to pick it up, like go back to it. They have still time to beat the game in time, but that's just heartbreaking. It's horrifying to think about. Like, he did well and was done in sync with the mask and has to start all over again. And this is a long fight. They have 444 HP and Soma just deals like 37 per slash. So it's a long one, it's a tough one, and dying like that is just awful.
How can you die when death is dead? Doesn't make sense. Konami, get on it. Meanwhile, Flame Demon Soul Manipulation and Levitain Manipulation, actually, it's a 2-for-1. Cute Shadow gets the sword and is doing some more back and forth attacking things, getting the animations and things to line up just right for the Flame Demon Soul drop. So a nice double manipulation for Cute Shadow. Flame Demon, one of the souls required. Get the true ending of the game as is required in this category, and most categories, I think. And the Levitain, just a nice bonus. Nice damage upgrade, fire element, also has its uses. And I can only assume, since Skunkov is already in the arena, that he has overtaken Cute Shadow and has successfully gotten these drops as well, while we were sort of lamenting the situation that Sablé has found himself in, who is at 5 health against the death fight. And I'm not sure if he even has a potion anymore, because we didn't see him use it before, and after these deaths, you'd think he would want to go straight for that potion as soon as he needed it. So,
well, that's not obvious. Maybe they just want to keep the potions for later. But here we go. So healing between phases, 205. That's way more comfortable. And I'm amazed with Cute Shadow's double dropping. Like, he failed the first time and then got like the backup immediately. And that's why Skunkov is a little bit in the lead. But being able to know, okay, I didn't got the Flame Demon Soul, here is how I go for it on the second attempt, is pretty neat, because that's a lot of things to learn. If you learn all the backups for all the souls, you are going to have like a fantastic learning experience, but also very long.
Skunkov now into the Balor fight, trying to keep these fists in sync with each other by kind of staying towards the middle whenever you can. The Levitain does a nice damage upgrade as well, actually out-damaging the Creaking Skull for a change.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, it's not often that you only see the one fist come in there, so he went for the left hook sucker punch there that Skunkov did not let him get away with, and into the second phase.
They have to get in sync with that fire, because it's getting crazy.
This is the whole thing here, is timing your jumps so that you are just barely getting over these flames, and making sure that your attacks come out and actually connect with this eyeball. Cute Shadow doing a very good job of that as well. Picking up some time, getting hit right at the end, but it's just a damage boost towards the door. Sort of closing the gap between Skunkov and Cute Shadow, and now they are once again neck and neck pretty far into this run.
So we see all the players we have for today. LF is doing the manip for the Leviathan and Flame Demon. Ghost Death is struggling in the clock tower. Quick is in the waterway on his way to the arena. So that means Skunkov and Cute Shadow are nicely in the lead, but the Mask and Sablier have a lot of work to do to be there. It's probably going to be Fireman, LF, Skunkov, and Cute Shadow that end up in the top 4. But once again, we have a lot of games to go through today, and we will qualify the 4 fastest runners overall, which means even if it didn't go so well in the first game, you still have a chance to get up there. Obviously, at the end, you have to be the fastest at the 10 games in a row, which is a big ask.
It really is. Sablier onto the second phase of the death fight, and he went really low there, so there's no crouching under that attack. Unfortunate for Sablier, Skunkov, and Cute Shadow. Still quite close, heading back through the castle. Now they've got the Bat Soul, which is a nice movement option that they have available now. You go faster, you have a smaller hitbox, you fly, obviously, so it is quite good for moving around the castle quickly, and it's also it's really cool the way that you can kind of freely transition back and forth without any kind of, you know, long transformation animation, nothing like that. So you can just kind of weave it in here and there whenever you need it to progress, like we just saw for Skunkoff. That is the only way to get up to this next level of the clock tower. But you can also use it to just kind of weave around some of these troublesome enemies. We might see it with the most troublesome enemies, these lubricants here, entering stage right for Skunkoff. There are 3 of them as you climb up this tower, and they love to just work together and camp above you, so he's not having any of it, so he's actually going to take it out.
Their
opportunity to
behavior
save
is awful.
Yeah.
It's just like they're waiting and predicting where you're going to be on the next like few steps, and they sometimes fail, but like when there are 2 of them, it's impossible to dodge. See that? They just like dive right in front of Skunkoff multiple times in a row, and okay, finally makes it. But the sync between Cute Shadow and Skunkoff is insane. They're getting their triple manip ready, getting everything in order. The MP and HP has to be right. The item also. They're just like sleeping and coming back with a backdash, hitting once, whiffing once, hitting once, and a ballow punch to the face will drop the Muramasa, which is a fantastic weapon. A slow one, but can multiple hit. And then they will equip the healing the MP first, and then they will equip the winged spear, 2 hits with once, and Skunkoff, okay, gets it. I was scared for a little bit, and then is going for the red Minotaur Soul with twice, makes it whiff, and then gets it perfectly. Cute Shadow gets the Succubus Soul and is going for the Minotaur Soul as well, gets the drop, but levels up in the middle, which is going to prevent the soul from dropping. So Skunkoff has a nice lead because Cute Shadow has to go to the backup strat for the red Minotaur Soul there.
I was pretty impressed with Cute Shadow's backup after missing Succubus the first try, but it's getting a backup for a level up in the middle of your manipulation. It would be some pretty next level stuff, so not quite able to account for that situation, and is going to be sleeping here on this other red Minotaur to get that much needed added 16 damage that you get from this soul. Or maybe they have Triton, so it's different. No, the red Minotaur is the attack, sorry, it's not the strength bonus. The gigantic axe that does a bajillion damage for emptying out your entire MP bar, very handy. So we're going to see that go to work on pretty much every boss from here on out. It's going to be the main source of damage, and Skunkoff is putting it to work on Graham now, who was a much easier fight back when the route involved the Claim Soleus, but now they are going to be using more conventional weapons, and that means you need to be a little more on point with your dodging, and it also means that you need to be opening and closing this darn menu over and over again. So there is some optimizations to be done and getting comfortable with this menu. So boss fights now testing a different sort of skill for these players. It's easy, you're not going to die in the menu or anything, but you can lose a lot of time.
This is the most punitive menu ever, because if you miss menu, you just like game over and you have to start again. This is the menuing, the most punitive one in any single game I know of, I think.
Yeah, the souls need to be correct here for when you defeat the first phase of Graham. That's the trigger for avoiding the bad ending of the game by equipping the souls that embody Dracula. You become Dracula, and then you can head to the Chaos Realm to fight the chaotic soul of Dracula. It's really not all that important, but it is important that it must be done to get the true ending of the game. And so those souls are not the fastest souls to equip. You want to be using the Red Minotaur soul and the Triton soul and all this. So players wait till the last second to open that menu and switch souls. And we have seen players wait too long to do that before. So that is definitely a concern.
So we're switching Fireman and Sablier. Sablier will come back at the end of the run, but Fireman is so much ahead. We'd like to see his grand fight. Skunkov got the Hippogriff and the Kettlebog. So very nice movement. At that point in the game, you have the two best movement upgrades, being the Hippogriff, which allows you to skyrocket upward very nicely, and Skunkov, with the Black Panther as well, can like just move freely. This is like the ultimate speed booster slash space jump slash what is it?
Screw attack.
Screw attack. Yeah, you have like everything at that point, and you just can move freely into the castle. That's very nice of an upgrade to have at that point, because if you are playing the game casually and you want to get the 100% souls or something like that, you want to be able to move like as fast as possible. And if you're just in a speedrun, it's just nice to have to beat the game as fast as possible as well. So here we go, and we are making our way towards Julius, one of the most important fights into that speedrun, because it can take a lot of time and is very technical.
Yeah, the players are actually taking a small detour here to gear up. I'd say more so for that fight than the final fight, selling off just about everything and actually going to pick up the Vijayas to actually sell that just to get as much money as they can, fill up on potions that they're going to be guzzling to throw axes and scythes at enemies. Cute Shadow is almost done with this final menu, and Skunkov is almost into the Julius fight, is taking a moment to
equip Balor
maybe
there?
think about his souls or what, but he was taking a long time in that
finally
menu.
saving! Yeah, okay. 30 minutes into the run, finally takes a safety save before the Julius fight. That shows how much he respects that boss.
Yeah, this is one of the toughest fights in the game. Nice job landing that Balor punch. Not easy with the way that Julius likes to jump around all the time. One of the best ways to land hits is to bait out a standing attack and then crouch under it while you're still in range to be landing hits of your own. You need to be careful, like we just saw there. If you crouch too early, Julius will mirror you and crouch himself, and then you're going to get hit. And you can only take so many hits, so it's been a really good fight, a very solid fight for Skunkov as he gets tagged by the dive kick into a small combo there, so has lost a big chunk of his health. We do have quite a few number of potions for this very reason, so we'll see how the rest of this fight goes.
Still, you want to be able to keep as many potions as you want, especially as you can, especially Minds Up, because the Balor Punch uses like over half MP bar, but they need as many MP as they can and potion for the chaos fight. Taking a lot of hits there, the dive kicks, the slashing, everything hurts. You don't have that much HP max to work with, and the potions are a nice boost. Finally done with the first phase. That's 2/3 of the fight, and the second phase is usually, I find, a little bit easier, because finally Julius stops like being knocked back and using as much iframes as he does in the first phase, using a second Balor punch, but he's very low in HP, heals up to 78 to finally take another.
He's just taking all these hits,
dies.
He can't keep doing that.
Wow.
Skunkov. He obviously
just go
took
full
one more
ham
hit than he intended there. It seemed like he was making a conscious decision to just trade hits with Julius, which is very fast, but you're gonna run out of potions eventually, and you definitely want to keep some, at least for the final boss. I think it's in some ways a bit harder to avoid taking damage in that fight. You're probably not going to take as much damage as Julius can put out with some of these attacks, but still, that was very aggressive, and then kind of just got caught maybe with like a two-hit combo a little bit. Was kind of caught crouching on the floor and couldn't really get away from the backswing on Julius's next hit. Cute Shadow as well, getting knocked around quite a bit here in the last phase
Yeah, he's
of the
moving
Julius fight.
His movement is a little bit weird, he's baiting a little bit too much attack, dodge is far away, and that's why I love having the Black Panther for that fight. Just being able to go through Julius very fast as he hits forward, you're just in his back immediately, is super convenient. But finally, Huge Shadow is done at almost 34 minutes, will head to the Chaos Realm. Skunkov is still in the fight, takes still a lot of damage, but equips the Black Panther, is going to be safer, gets to the second phase. Zamask once again died in Manticore, lost 4 minutes, but he's still doing fine in comparison. But Fireman heading to Julius, almost there, saving the consensus is saving before Julius, and I totally agree with that. In a race, Julius has way too much potential killing you, so being safe here is a good thing. Everybody did that so far.
Man, Skunkov is, it's almost like Julius is like an actual human being who is like getting a read on Skunkov and is like, oh man, I keep tagging him with these dive kicks, and he keeps trying to crouch cancel my slide kicks. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing this attack and keep getting him with it. But finally, Skunkov is now done with Julius. This really aggressive trading that he was doing has worked out for him now, though he did drop back from Cute Shadow and is gonna eat, some number of points lost for that. It must have been at least a solid minute or so. But that's behind him now as he's rocketing through the castle, hitting his head on just about every possible ceiling that he could. Following Cute Shadow through the Chaos Realm, the mask, like you said, now into the second half of the grand fight. And, that was a really bad mistake that happened to him early on. So to come back from that mistake and then just play a really solid run, almost from the beginning, all the way through, is pretty impressive and says a lot about the mask's ability to kind of deal with bad situations and play from behind, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the strengths for some runners. Devil T-Fat showed multiple times that just being behind usually works well for them. They will just not stop, not overthink about the situation and just go. And the mask shows the same ability, and that is just crazy. Like, it's kind of, you either have it or you don't, and if you don't, just practicing and doing a lot of races is going to help you. But just like, I'm not being stressed out by the race. Okay, you got a mistake in, just go as fast as possible, forget about the timer, just beat the game, enjoy, show your skill, what you learn, and boom, it's sounds easier than it actually is. Cute Shadow in the first phase of the Chaos fight, you just have to deal with the orbs. You don't have any soul, so it's a little bit harder, but as soon as you're done with the blue one, you don't have that giant demon head rushing at you, so it gets easier. Almost done there, they cannot die anymore. The yellow soul just depletes your MP, so we're good on that front, done with the first phase, and the second phase is just a matter of using the red Minotaur over and over again until everything's dead.
Yeah, the menu certainly plays a bigger role than attacking or dodging the way that you might expect, just because the Minotaur Soul is just so good at hitting the eyes that have been placed in these far reaches of the screen. Guess what? Minotaur Soul doesn't care. It's big enough to hit all four as long as you make sure that you place it correctly.
They got that slow sword, I don't remember its name, that gets you more strength. So you cannot hit very well with that sword because it's a slow one, you cannot slash cancel it, so you don't want to use it, but just equipping it gives you more strength. So they deal 122 damage to the eyes. We'll see what Skunkov deals, but that's a huge upgrade from usual, and that's pretty nice. You can buy that weapon from the merchant at the start of the game, but usually runners don't go for that. And nice.
I wonder what the reason is, but yeah, he threw in like a couple hits on the final phase, but his extra damage meant that his damage per mana was so high that he didn't even run out of potions before he was done with the fight. So very, very solid ending two Cute Shadows run, he's going to be in first for now.
It's 575 for Skunkov, so that's 50 more damage per swing for Cute Shadow. That's like 200 total if you multiply it by 4 eyes. Maybe that saved the swing, I don't know, but it's pretty cool to see. It's maybe just a matter of how much money you have and how confident you have with less potions, but certainly it did work out for Cute Shadow, and they're already done as we just plugged in LF, which is who is in the Chaos realm, making his way towards Chaos.
Oh yeah, LF kind of sneaking in there a little bit. Is very strong on most of the games we're playing today. Is a little weak on inertia, but look for LF to, despite almost not qualifying to be here today, it's because all the games that they're good at are kind of today, and the games they weren't so good at were last week. So LF is going to be a really strong competitor, and you can see that keeping pace with the top players here on Aria of Sorrow, like say Skunkov, who is now done, is going to be finishing in second on the leaderboard. Assuming something crazy didn't happen off stream, and it's looking more and more like LF is going to be fourth behind Fireman, who is now stepping into the final boss fight, having his souls sucked away by this chaotic mess that is supposed to represent some sort of aspect of Dracula. We don't get the cape and the white hair and the fireballs or any of that in this game, but this is Dracula in one form or another, and it's just using that Muramasa. We lean pretty heavily on the Muramasa for damage once you lose your souls. The double hit for the 90 damage is pretty solid, a pretty fair replacement for the Claim Soleus.
It's so bad compared to the Claim Soleus. Yeah, like back in the old round where we did that huge detour, like a 3 minutes or 3 minutes and a half way around, like getting Curly and Undyne, so you can get Claim Solace, which just hurts like a lot. You can it's a huge swing, you can cancel it, it deals a lot of damage, it's wholly elemental, it's just like crazy good, especially for the Chaos fight. We did not have to use the Red Minotaur there, it would just been slower, and like it's heartbreaking just to think about it. Like, just imagine if the Claim Solace was a little bit more on the round, like you could pick it up in the arena or something. But no, you have to go to the Forgotten Highway or whatever the name is of the arena. I already forgot, and it's heartbreaking. And a lot of players of old school runners like VB, who has the world record, just prefers the old route because of that weapon and less manipulation and slow stuff you have to deal with if you don't have that sword.
I also would appreciate having the boss fight be less focused on opening and closing and navigating these menus. There's
Fireman still has an eye open.
Yeah, he's made a decision here, or maybe he just doesn't notice. I'm not sure, but those Minotaur souls could very easily be hitting both the core and the eye at the same time. But he is just hanging out in the opposite corner, and basically having the eyes dead lets you do more damage to the main core in the middle. So this piddly little 15 damage would be something also pretty small, but not quite as low.
I don't know if you
that
can
other eye was
beat
dead.
Chaos without killing the eye. That would answer a big question I have, like, since the beginning. Like, are the eyes optional? I finally noticed it, and just like 2 swings were enough. And now, like, he almost doubled the damage it deals to the eye, and that's going to be GG. But LF passed Fireman apparently, or is it just at the start? No, he passed them. Just because of that last final eye, LF finishes 3rd and Fireman finishes 4th. He must like be mad at himself for not saying that, but finally makes it 43 minutes in. That's a 160 points, so that's still a good chunk, and they will like have a nice score to put up there. Sabli is back. Let's see where they are.
I really don't want to see this clock tower. I don't want to see some kind of
There are...
Horrible meltdown.
Oh, and after Balor. Okay.
All right. So still quite a bit of Castlevania left to play. I'm not sure if Sablé is going to get in there underneath the cutoff. It's going to be pretty close, I think.
It's 52 minutes. They still have like 8 minutes to go. Still have to go back to the upper floor, kill Graham, and then go to Julius, and then go to the Chaos fight, and finishes the game. If it is possible, like theoretically, I'd say, but you'd have to play out of your mind and just like get on world record pace for the final split. So that's you know, hard, obviously, but still, they could do it, and they are going for it, not letting go of the controller right away, which is a good sign. Just shows motivation, and it's still good practice, even if you don't finish in time. Being able to race the game and try. Apparently, they did not have so much time this week to put some practice and de-rust effort going on. So, you know, you should like enjoy the time you chose to spend on the game. Quick in the Chaos Realm, bunking as much as they can with the Hippogriff, trying to dodge those lubricants. That guy just is there to prevent you from going fast. It's crazy.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. Like, they're bad enough to deal with, but then they're also right before you're about to set up a very complicated manipulation, and that's kind of where you want your focus to be, on making sure you do this right. But these gatekeepers are there forcing you to think about them, at least for a little bit. We can also see Ghost Death in the bottom right corner, who had some times on the leaderboards for games and didn't have times on the leaderboard for others, but then came out to compete in the tournament and did really well in those games. So I wasn't sure what to expect from their Aria of Sorrow. But now that we get a peek at what they've finally been up to this whole time, it's not a good sign. They're in a part of the castle that they shouldn't be on the main route, or maybe any routes, and is looking pretty lost here. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a 0 on the board from Ghost Death, who is just kind of getting more of a feel for the game, I guess, in this time. If he manages to qualify, we'll have another week to put into this game and any others, and if not, there will be other tournaments in the UD for to come back after you've really spent the time to get things down. But back to the Mask, who is in the final fight here, doing the classic menu refill. Is that enough? Damage. I don't know if he has enough for another Minotaur Soul here.
Doesn't need it. Doesn't matter. Ghost Death is entered the UD pretty late, like 5 or 6 weeks into the reveal of the game. So they passed the first week for Aria of Sorrow, Shovel Knight, Story About My Uncle, and just picked the game as they were announced, as he joined the tourney. So they still have a little bit of work to do on those games, and maybe he's not going to be there for the August tournament, but he will certainly be on top there for the September tournament. But we are going to mix up the game a little bit in the order, so maybe they will have the worst draw and will have to work hard for their qualification. We'll see how well that goes for them. But he's enjoying his time playing casually through Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which is pretty nice to see. Getting as much time as they can on some practice and just learning how the game works. Playing casually through the games you want to speedrun is obviously a good idea. So yeah.
Quick into the final fight now as well. Is taking great care not to take any hits. Trying to preserve that HP. Maybe is low on the potion count or something. Ended up with less money. I'm not sure. We can get a sense of where they're at. Perhaps Sablier managed to get at least the Muramasa drop I saw, and it looked like was probably failed at least once on Succubus at some point. But I'm not sure if they're gonna. They really needed that manipulation to go well in order to make the cutoff, so I'm not sure if that's going to work out for them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're stopping here or if the stream is having a little bit of delay. But Like, I would totally understand for them just to quit the game right now, get onto trial. It's still the start of the tourney. You can expect a lot of those runners to fail at least one game, maybe, and just be like, okay, that was Eye of Sorrow for me, let's go for the next game. Next up is Trials 2, and then we have Metal Slug. Those two games are usually quite consistent for the players, but Metal Slug can be a little bit random, so we'll see. And Inertia can go very well or very wrong. It's the single game where we had the biggest gaps between race result and PB, sometimes going as far as high as doubling their time. So we'll see how that goes for Sablier, but we should wish them luck.
Yeah, there's man, Shovel Knight it's going to be a scary game for a lot of players, and even the players who have really solid times in that game are probably still going to be worried about it, because we have seen that game get away from some players in past races, and that's the kind of game where if for Sablier, for example, who is likely to put up a 0 here on Aria of Sorrow, if he comes through on Shovel Knight and one of his competitors who did very well in Aria of Sorrow doesn't get there on Shovel Knight, then now they have the 0, right? So it comes down to a battle of how well these players do in their other games, and that could be the thing that gets Sablier into the top 4. He's going to need some help, though, obviously. With only 5 games, scoring a 0 on 1 is a huge loss of points. He is very solid at most games that we're going to be playing today, so it's possible he has it in him to score well on these other games and put up a solid enough time to capitalize on the mistakes of others. There's also just a question of is he going to be able to play at that high level after things didn't go so well on game number 1.
And game number 2, Trials 2. Hard to explain that game without seeing it. If you've never been playing Trials, you should get on that because it's a very fun game. It has a huge list of games in that series, and it started with a Flash game like way back when the internet was young and everybody was going crazy with those, and it still has that very Flash feeling to it. You do not control the motorcycle per se, you just handle the braking and the position of your player onto that bike, and just creates like some funky situation. But we see the Castlevania leaderboard with Skunkoff and Cute Shadow putting there some crazy good times. LF and Fireman just close together, 161 and 162 points on the game, and then The Mask and Quick 136 and 122. They are going to have to work quite hard to get back on top 4, but as you said, Shovel Knight could decide it all, so we'll see how well that goes. And obviously Sablier and Ghostdeath, not finishing the game on time, they have to work pretty hard on the next 4 games, being sure to finish on time with some decent result to be back in the race.
The players have almost kind of paired up here a little bit. Cute Shadow and Skunkoff just about 10 points apart, but both 20-30 points above the next pair, who are very close, and then 20 points more to the next pair, and then a pair of very unfortunate zeros at the bottom. It's just sort of the way this one played out, I suppose. The pairings are nice, though, because you can see that there's a very big gap. Well, I mean, 20 points is not a big gap in the grand scheme of things, but for one game, it's a gap between 4th and 5th. 4th is our cutoff for this turn of the August tournament. So all the players, 5, 6, 7, 8, the Mask, Quake, Sablier, Ghostdeath, going to have to cross that barrier to get into the top 4 to continue playing and try to qualify for grand finals. And then it's also, thinking forward, the 4 players who qualify today, only 2 of them will qualify for grand finals. So our 2 favorites, I would say, Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, are have performed according to what the analysts said, by which I mean me thinking about it last night. And they are number 1 and 2, and we can see a gap between 1, 2, and 3, 4. So that's not going to matter this week, but it sure as heck is going to matter next week.
Yeah, it's next week. It's all going to be a matter of consistency, being able to beat those 10 games like during the weekend without too much time to be able to de-rust between games, like which we are just like going as fast as possible through those. You want to be able to beat the game on time. The Mask and Sablier apparently not having their feed up. I know Trials 2 can be a little bit weird to set up. And here we go. So the category is just beat the easy difficulty and the medium difficulty as fast as possible. You can die and use the checkpoint, no problem. Obviously that costs you some time, but it's not too bad. And some strats actually do involve resetting, and being able to reset is exactly at the correct time is a skill you need to practice. But first you need to learn exactly how the tracks go. It starts smoothly, usually it's a cool ride up until the medium difficulty tracks, and the medium tracks are getting harder very fast as you progress through the run.
Yeah, we're going to be playing through the easy tracks and the medium tracks, and it is a pretty smooth ramp in difficulty, to use that specific term on purpose. It does get, you do start to get into some of the meat of what Trials can really be in some of the later medium tracks, where when you first play this game for the first time, it doesn't even seem possible to do some of the things that the game asks you to do, and it's not until through repetition and better understanding of just how to manipulate this bike, things like you only have control over the back tire with the gas and brake. So if that back tire is not down on the ground getting friction on something, then both your gas and brake buttons are both useless, basically. So controlling your back tire becomes very important in making certain jumps. And of course, just in a speed run, where with these easier levels, you're less worried about trying to make a very difficult jump that takes multiple tries, and you're more worried about a little more worried about just the small optimizations, coming down off a jump and landing on the downslope to keep your momentum, instead of having it all kind of get killed by colliding into the upslope. You can introduce some extra energy and speed by throwing in some flips, like we saw from Fireman. LF opting not to. The flips kind of defy physics a little bit, so my take on it is that it's by introducing
they
spin.
hit their head at the end of the loop there. LF sitting back a little bit. Cute Shadow and Fireman exactly at the same spot
Again.
here. Yeah, that loop can trick you. You really have to go slow at the end, but not too slow or you will fall. LF falls again. Fireman in the lead on those few planks there. You just have to, as you said, control your back tire here when you land. If you bounce on the front tire and then like have a weird bounces with your back tires, you will not be able to grip correctly. And that's the kind of thing we can see right now, where the game kind of feel impossible. Like you have to have nice jump and forward momentum, even though the ramp you're going on is almost vertical and kills your forward momentum. So you have to adjust yourself to just give an extra push to be able to get there. And yeah, it's just a matter of feeling, repetition, habit with the how the game controls, and you'll get there eventually. But that game has like an infinite skill ceiling. Like the hard track are almost impossible, and some player can totally deal with them, and even make like go through custom tracks that are even harder. That game is crazy.
Thankfully, our players didn't have to worry about that they could just focus on sort of optimizing the sections they could. Fireman getting pretty crazy with some flips here on this sort of Tony Hawk spine transfer looking section of this. I think this is Where's the Ground, track number 8 of Easy. You'll see why it gets that name in a little bit, though with Fireman taking the low road, we are certainly seeing plenty of the ground Leon here. Though he is our leader by a fair bit, and
Cute Shadow is not too far behind, though.
Mm-hmm. It's yeah, you're right. They're much closer than I thought. But there we see a pretty big jump. That was the one I was looking for. There's one coming up pretty much right at the end of the level. But yeah, I'm not actually sure which route is faster or slower. Fireman actually opting to reset and start from a checkpoint. I'm not sure if that is any faster. It all seems to be pretty marginal in this level, which route you take through it. And there's our final big jump from Fireman, who does an okay job of finding the downslope, but it doesn't matter too much because the end of the level is right there.
Trials 2 is an interesting speedrun in the UD because it really feels like nobody is really speedrunning and just everybody is going to go deathless and not necessarily as fast as possible, but just as consistent as possible. It's just being able to beat the game, not going like for the crazier strat. Nobody learned like the IL strats. Everybody's just, okay, I'm going to go through, not die, and I will have a good enough time. That's an interesting take, obviously, because it's every death you're going to die a lot, and every death takes a lot of time away from you. And being able to reset and go for consistent rounds, even though it might be slower, is good enough for the UD.
Good enough is a mantra that you can adopt to get you through some of the UD games. There's 10 games. You need to figure out where to put your time, where to put your efforts, where they're gonna get you the most bang for your buck, basically. And so, spending however long it takes to truly master a very difficult game like Trials, like you said, like, and infinite skill ceiling.
That's not understating it. Like,
right? Yeah, you could be playing this game for the entire 6 months of the UD and still have room for improvement. So, you have to draw the line somewhere, basically. And this is where pretty much across the board, everyone's kind of decided to draw the line at the same sort of safe, consistent strats. No one going for any crazy flips over, like the intro video for this game looks amazing, by the way, but the players are not really going for a lot of the crazy stuff you see in that video.
Yeah, mad props to Le Chamout, who is in chat and has done all the montage for the game's intro. Cute Shadow just passed Fireman as we are starting with too many tires here, the medium difficulty tracks, so that's where the difficulty ramps up, and you have way more like landing and jumps to go for. Every single jump will have that tiny plank at the end just to block you if you don't have enough momentum. It's everything here just gets trickier, and being in the lead, starting the medium difficulty tracks is going to be good for Cute Shadow. They are currently in first place with 191 points, and they're probably like the leader potential for that entire tourney. Everybody is expecting a lot from them, so seeing them right there is very nice.
Yeah, we don't have Skunkoff on stream, but this is sort of his namesake in the UD. He is third best on the leaderboard, and the other players who are better than him are not really challenging him in the full breadth of the decathlon. So in these full multi-game tournaments, Skunkoff's pretty much at the peak for Trials 2, and he is currently sitting very well on the leaderboard in second place, so look for him to maybe even overtake Cute Shadow, who is having a really great run. But we could see there's only 70 points separating those two, so we might see Skunk Off make up some ground and jump into first. But that will remain to be seen. But Fireman, who is fourth, is really making a push here, is doing very well in trials, was in sync with Cute Shadow for the reset there. Didn't like the way that jump was going. Sometimes recognizing that in advance is a good race technique in this game, knowing there's no point watching and seeing what's going to happen. I know it's not going to be good. Let's reset now and do it right rather than lose that time waiting.
That's something pretty cool about trials, is that you can see how well it's going to go. It's like inertia in that sense. Inertia, you can see that you're going to go too far or too short from a platform. And trials, if you see that you're going to land poorly, like we just seen on Fireman's screen, you just hit the reset button, get back to checkpoint before even landing, because seeing yourself land on the head, although the broken bones counter on the top left corner is a nice touch, you don't need to see that go too high for making a good race.
I really did like the stuff in Skate, like Hall of Meat or something, where you just try to totally wreck yourself as much as possible. Yeah, that's pretty fun. Not conducive to what we are looking for from our competitors today. So we're going to see Fireman falling a little bit down on this ramp. So this is nice recovery there. I fully expected him to like back off and level his bike, and he tipped over and bumped his head there, but he did hit the checkpoint just before, and that is the important thing, hitting onto these dreaded pipes that Cute Shadow is also battling with here.
This is one of the hardest parts of the entire speedrun, and it looks like crazy easy. You just have like a few jumps to make, but you do not have a jump button, and those pipes have that slight angle and upward like part at the end, and it just like it's very, very bad, and it can get very tricky because once again you have only your back tire that does all the work. So if you have like your front tire upward and your back tire down there, you have to find a way to get your back tire enough momentum to go up and forward, and it's actually way trickier than it looks. So they both passed the obstacle. Cute Shadow almost done with the next level already, as LF starts Boulder Dash and the mask gets onto those pipes at the end there. So all four runners very close together actually.
It was kind of the Fireman Cute Shadow show for a little bit, but the mask has kind of quietly been right there with them, just a little bit behind, and was showing no signs of slowing down. Though we are pretty far along now. Cute Shadow is under construction, and Fireman about to join them. This is the second to last level of the goal, and it's kind of, I like the theme to it actually, with the level kind of being half unfinished. Wait, no, I forgot about I Want Squirrels. We're on the third last track.
You can see a squirrel on Fireman's screen right now.
Here and there.
Yeah. For some weird reason, squirrels got the animal companion status for the trial series, and on some of the games for that series you have to find, like as a side objective, these squirrels hidden in every single level. But Fireman did find one, but is not able to go up that ramp. Finally makes it, gets to the checkpoint, resets immediately, and goes back. Those tiny jumps you have to make, like those tires and stuff, it's quite hard. And right now, like, you would just wish you had a jump button on that game, just being able to go up and propel you. But no, you have to get enough momentum and swing your biker up and down, so he gives a little extra push to your vehicle and gets there. But it is tricky, and gets that final jump nicely above the barrel, and those few extra ramps at the end should not be a problem. Or will,
Yeah, I've seen this. I don't know what Fireman is doing differently compared to other players, but he seems to have really good control on bunny hopping, is my guess. That the idea of sort of leaning back and then springing forwards will get your bike a bit of a jump. You know, it's nothing compared to pressing the jump button in a platformer, but it does get you a little bit of extra height, and he's doing it a lot, basically, in situations where other players aren't, and in some cases it's actually flipping his bike forwards in a bit of an awkward way, getting his back tire off of whatever he wants it to be. Like right there, you can see that back tire bounced up nice and high. Not so nice and high, rather, because you do want that back tire down, getting friction and accelerating you. So it's hurt him a little bit, but it does help him in terms of getting extra distance and height on his jumps. Like right there, his bike just kind of sprung right up onto that platform, whereas I think a lot of other players would have the back tire hang down and then slowly find purchase somewhere and start to pull the bike up. So he is really good at that bunny hop maneuver. He just needs to rein it in a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's actually like the moment you pointed it out. There's no ramp to make you jump. So if you just go forward, you will bonk your front tire, and it's not going to work. If you just flip a little bit, you will get exactly into the situation you described, where the front tire made it, but the back tire doesn't. And if you do that nice bunny hop, you will get everything there. And Just Fireman is very good at those. Demonstrates right now once again, and just gets through all the time, and finally makes it. We are getting to the final level. Cute Shadow is already on that weird tunnel here, where you have to be super careful not to bonk your head. Does it? Sadly has to reset again. Okay, that's getting ridiculous. Our biker is suffering too much. Let's end this. The helmet is not doing you any good. You touch your head, you're dead.
Yeah, there are some situations where your rider, clearly was just utterly decapitated, bent in half, and crushed and smushed, and but gets back on the bike and is right there again for round 2. And then there are times when he just ever so lightly grazes his head on something, and just takes a dive, and almost looking for a call from an imaginary ref or something, but he can't take it. So you need to be very careful with your head in this game, and it's kind of, we've got a kind of a traffic jam has built up now between Cute Shadow, Fireman, and the Mask. They are all very close to each other.
Yeah.
I did not expect this finish. In fact, I think the Mask is now ahead of Fireman.
The Mask is right behind. Fireman just passed the ramp part and just got up the jumps, and we'll get there. Sadly, Fireman dies as Cute Shadow gets to the end, finishes first between the 4 players we can see. Skunkoff, as you stated before, is probably already done. We are 17 minutes into the run, so Skunkoff, if he pulled off like 14 minutes, would be in the lead by 30 or 40 points, so which is crazy.
Yeah, that is a lot of points to have earned in just the first 2 games, and it looks like the end of this level did not go so well for the Mask. So this is kind of my favorite part here, when you actually drive backwards off that little bit on the ceiling. You don't want to go too hard. You actually can send yourself flipping backwards all the way over the wall, and does a really good job of controlling his bike and keeping the back tire down. What is he? Double flip? Are you serious? The Mask kind of popping off a little bit here at the end of the run. Nice job finishing up there and keeping pace with the leaders, I suppose. I mean, it's hard to say where Skunkoff was. He sort of probably was setting the bar off stream, but on stream, the Mask was right there with Cute Shadow and Fireman. We're taking a look at some of the other players now. It looks like Kerpuik already done as well, so very good run for Kerpuik. Sablier's stream is buffering or catching up or something, but I'm trying to figure out just from this snapshot which level this is.
It looks like the final level, doesn't it, with those ramps upward? But the lighting is wrong, so maybe not. LF is under construction. Bonking his head repeatedly on that wall, trying to land both tires. Finally, nope, does not go for that one. Okay, finally does it, and here he has to now get a nice bunny hop. Yeah, went Nice, and just has to go for it. This is the second to last level, so let's not stop right now. Ghost Death, a little bit behind right now, having still like 2 levels to go. This is the Squirrels level.
Yeah, this was Trials is one of the games that Ghost Death has been working on in the past week. He managed to qualify for this event in the 5 other games of the UD, and there were, I think, 3 games of the 5 today that he hadn't really learned yet, so needed to try to do his best to learn these games. This was one of them that he actually managed to get a PB uploaded onto the leaderboards, so it's been a focus of his. It looks like he is definitely going to finish here before the cutoff, but he is very far back compared to the other players, and it looks like he's going to drop back a little further still. So he knew it was a super long shot for him to pull off qualifying in today's event, and he's probably going to stick it out. But all said, it doesn't look good for Ghost Death here in the August tournament. But I think he's going to be a name we're going to see in future tournaments for sure.
What do you think his chances to be in there during the grand finals, knowing that we qualify only the best 8 is? It seems likely, to be honest.
He's got a shot for sure. I could pick 8 names that are all very good, right? So he needs to be better than those 8 names in at least some capacity on one of these chances to qualify. But it's certainly possible. It's not even possible like it's possible, like it's very possible for Ghost Death. I've been very impressed with their ability to learn games very quickly, which is obviously key for an event like the Ultimate Decathlon, and it just seems to have a really high just generic skill level. I want to give him like a speedrunner power level or something. That speedrunning is one of those things where anyone can do it. It just takes some people more time than others to get there, and some people just have this natural ability to do it well. And I think I see that in Ghost Death. So players like that, I never count them out. And I think you're absolutely right that he definitely could be one of our 8.
What I love about Ghost Death, he doesn't come from speedrunning at all. He started streaming and speedrunning during May the 20th of 2018. He just started, and he's proved that anyone can get into speedrunning, can get very good very quickly. And anyone in chat, if you'd like to join in us for next season of UD, is just like proof that you do not need speedrunning experience to just do fantastic. I think doing the UD is very demanding, but it's kind of easier than to grind just a single world record. For at least like mentally, because you just have a lot of different options. You can always switch to something else if something gets too difficult or too tiring for you. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing. He's struggling with those final levels though, but he will make it. Maybe not today because the cutoff is getting super close now. 2 minutes and a half before we are there, and he has to work very hard for those 100 points now.
Yeah, I liked where he was at in terms of overall progression, but he's just kind of hit a wall a little bit here. This jump in particular is one of the big moments. Like, you'll have this experience, this exact experience, if you play this game yourself for the first time, where you just find a jump like this where you hit the gas and then you don't go where you need to, and you're like, I don't understand how to make the bike go where I need it to, because it's in just these little subtle movements, leaning back and forward on the bike, hitting the gas here, not hitting the gas here, and understanding, like, if my bike gets caught like this, how do I fix it? Is it even possible to fix it? It's definitely just like we've been talking about how I think Ghost Death is a good speedrunner, but like you said, most players aren't even really speedrunning this game in the traditional sense. They're
But
kind of just playing it, really.
yeah. But that shows how hard it is to just play trials. Like Ghostdeath is doing his best and gets stuck in loops where it seems impossible. So anyone being able to do those in just like with no reset, no dying, like just being able to go through the levels shows how hard already it is just to play trials. So it's not like I was not saying, oh, they're bad at speedrunning trials. It's just that it's insanely hard just to play trials already.
It really is. It's one of those. It's almost like I liken it to when I learned Tetris for the first Big 20, where there's no route for it. You know, you just have to play it over and over and get a feel for how things fit together. In the case of Tetris, it was very literally how things fit together, but it's just.
Because this is so close.
It's by
there.
feel, right? More than it's not so much looking for a visual cue and I do this here and I do this there. It really is just getting a feel for how this bike controls and interacts and the physics and all that. And it is the kind of thing that unfortunately just takes time. So Ghostdeath has been a player with a lot of skill and not a lot of time.
Because this is like a few jumps away and maybe he's not going to make it. We just passed the cutoff, but we might have some slight stream delay. But yeah, apparently it's a 25-15, but maybe their timer is a little bit earlier than that. We'll see. I'm a bit scared. Sablier is right there at the final level also on that part that gave Kichedo so much trouble. And damn, seeing those runners like being able to get there like 25 minutes to beat all those levels is super easy if you spent 2,000 hours into the game, and completely impossible if you're new to the game. So it's just all being there is already pretty hard. And Sablier and Ghostdeath, sadly, both runners needed some good times there to be able to mark some points, but yeah, that's it. And sadly, they will have to probably not score anything. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We'll also see spoilers from someone in chat, I think, who had the inside line. I'll be patient and wait for the leaderboard to pop up on stream, but I think we may have seen something. Well, we may have not seen something happen that was pretty cool. In terms of how some of the other runners off stream did. But it is looking like we're not going to see too much movement on the leaderboard. I think the mask is going to, start to catch up to LF a little bit, and maybe Quick as well. LF probably going to fall down a little bit, but Fireman probably going to take third, so there's going to be a bit of shuffling back and forth, but and hopefully I don't think there's going to be anything too drastic as we get ready for game number 3 of 5 today. It's going to be Metal Slug, the original, though probably not played on an arcade. I don't think any of the players are firing up their super guns or anything. We're going to be playing the Steam version, but it is pretty faithful and horrible lag and everything, so
yeah, a lot of lag, a lot of RNG, ammo manipulation. Dying is awful. It's all building up to the final boss, whether you have the resources you need or not. And overall, it's a very tough game. So we'll see. Actually, I just cut the leaderboard. Here we go. And as you predicted, actually. A lot of shuffling, so we had those duos. Skunkoff and Q Shadows after Eye of Sorrow are still up there, but Skunkoff takes the lead by a huge margin, getting like 227 on trials, whereas Q Shadow got 188, and trials seems to be the big decider because Q Shadow, Fireman, and the Mask were super close together, 188 or 187 for those 3 runners, and it puts the Mask up there, breaking the LF Fireman duo and getting on the 3rd place, 14 points ahead of LF. So 14 points is almost nothing on Metal Slug. It's like 2 minutes, so it's going to be to go crazy fast. But Oh, it's like 1 minute, less than 1 minute, 45 seconds, my bad. And it's the same story between Fireman and the Mask, so anything can happen. LF falling at the 5th place is almost right there with Kerpwick, because Kerpwick got 180 points on trials, so far the story is, if you did well on trials too, you are pretty darn good on the overall tourney. We'll see how Metal Slug writes that story.
I see two things here that I'm very happy to see. One, Ghost Death did in fact finish to earn the 100 points on trials. Actually 110, so finishing well under this, stream delay and things like that. I'm also looking particularly at Skunkoff's time. Obviously Skunkoff did well. This is his best game. But not only did he do well, he did his literal best. This is an improvement by 2 points, an improvement of 6 seconds in trials too. So this is not like someone like Ghost Death, for example, who that could maybe even be a PB for Ghost Death, but he's a new player. The PBs come pretty frequently early on as you're learning and getting better. Skunkoff's already the best kind of this group, and so to improve on that best in a race is pretty fantastic. Hats off to Skunkoff, and that is going to give him this 30 point lead heading into the last couple games of the August tournament. We are in the semifinal. We have narrowed down the field down to 8, and we're going to narrow it further down to 4, who are going to go on to play in the finals next weekend.
Yeah, so on the 25th and 26th of August, next weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, we are going to play 5 games on Saturday, 5 games on Sunday, and just adding all the points from all 10 games and see whoever comes in first. So far we are going to focus on Fireman, The Mask, LF, and Kerpwick. Those are the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th position on the leaderboard, and Kerpwick still has a very good chance to come back on top 4, which means he has to make some nice room as we get to the first helicopter there. The chopper is down, and the first level goes super quickly, actually.
Yeah, there's not a lot of threats, so the players are free to optimize their movement with these jumps. You move much faster when you jump, though you are putting yourself at risk. Your hitbox is quite a bit bigger, and you're also just in the air. There just tends to be more threats flying through the air in a war than there is crawling along the ground. So there will be some situations where there's a lot of enemies, there's a lot of projectiles, tanks, and things. The players will opt to maybe keep their feet on the ground a little more. But for now, they're going to be jumping pretty much as they can. And in terms of just overall, Metal Slug is one of those games where the field is fairly even here today. The best is going to be LF sitting at 164 points, and the worst is Kerpwick sitting at 116. So a 50-point difference between best and worst means that these guys are all going to be pretty evenly matched in terms of PB, at least, for Metal Slug. So it'll hopefully make for one of the better races to watch from our perspective. But it also means that it's going to be important to keep pace with the others. This is a game that is very punishing if you die at the wrong time. Like you can see, they've got these rocket launchers now. If you lose this rocket launcher, these boats become much harder to deal with. So you will lose that rocket launcher if you die. You'll also lose, if you have more than 10 bombs, you will lose your bombs as it gets reset down to 10. Bombs do a ton of damage. They are a great source of damage in this game. So, dying at the wrong time can cost you 30 seconds, a minute, or more, especially right at the end of the game.
It's insane because when you die, you just pop back up, you are immediately there. You lose 5 seconds due to animation, but that's it. And actually what's very important is resource management. And since you don't have those nice random drops you could have in any other game, you have to deal exactly with what the game is giving you at certain point in time. So the mini-boss is already done for the Mask, while Fireman waits for him to pop back up. Shotguns plus 2 grenades will do the trick. He forgets to jump, it gets messy, but finally it's done. Loses a little bit too much ammo on his fire gun shots here, so they need that. We were talking about ammo management, and ammo counts towards it, obviously.
The mask slug crashing out of the namesake of the game, the metal slug, as soon as possible. It does give you multiple hits. It does have a really cool gun, but it lags the game like crazy with all of its... I'm not sure how many sprites are involved in making that thing, just based off the way it moves. I feel like it's got to be more than a few. So the players will make use of the slug crash. Most of the time, there are some situations where it is it's helpful for other reasons, and it can also be helpful for consistency reasons. You do get those multiple hits. You do get what is ostensibly a heavy machine gun. You get a different sort of projectile. So players might opt to stick with a metal slug in certain situations.
But they shouldn't, for lag reason. As you stated, it's
right.
Just super slow. And the problem with Metal Slug is look how gorgeous the game is. Sadly, like even if the Neo Geo was a super good console, like hardware-wise, it still does not handle all of it properly. Like everything is animated, and you have way too much going on screen. Look at how many projectiles the console has to deal with. So it lags a lot, and being able to get the console to lag as little as possible is key on that speedrun as well.
We're going to see one of the few cases of a skip or glitch, perhaps, a nice little thing from Kerpweek there, and now we're seeing it from Fireman. Jumping to your death below this cliff, and the death will put you back up on the cliff, jumping into the open door there to take out the barrel. Pretty nice job. Finding the hitbox on the platforms. There's a couple platforms in this vertical climb here that aren't quite where they appear to be, but haven't tripped up any players yet. We got all three players in the mask, Fireman and Kerpweek, fighting this guy whose name I forgot. Kerpweek actually dies right at the end of the fight.
Yep. Doesn't matter too much. But yeah, Alan O'Neill, he's a character that's very recurrent to a series. Comes back almost every single game, and he's just there to stop you a little bit. LF making very good progress. Has a very healthy amount of grenades. Just shoots there left and right with the Metal Slug cannon. Just ignores completely those ammo, which means that he is doing very good. Oh, Fireman almost dying. They're barely crouching under those shots, and they all want to keep their bombs here. It's very important. Sadly, Fireman dies, gets back a heavy machine gun, but he's down 20 bombs now.
Yeah, the bombs are very important. We're seeing LF putting them to work on the boss. This is another advantage of the Metal Slug, is that it lets you throw these bombs more quickly. Not in terms of how fast you can actually throw them out, but in terms of how many you can have out at once. I don't know if that was intended or not, but you can have more than 2 bombs on the screen at once. And since you need to wait for the full arc of the bomb to drop all the way down to the boss, it actually makes quite a big difference in letting you rapid fire pump out those bombs. So LF is looking really good, having already defeated the boss, moving on to the next level.
That level 4 is very short. You just have to be sure to kill everything early, use your bombs at the correct time. Those jump here, okay, he's taking it very safe using bombs to kill the enemies. You can have a very tight jump onto the crate, but it's pretty easy to get tripped up, so it just goes safe. Cannot blame them here. Just suicide the slug as soon as they enter it, just to use the extra damage it deals, and is not stopping for anything now that they have the shotgun, and we'll get to the final boss of the level very quickly. Ton of resources. It's that boss is later on in the series just a regular enemy. It's not a problem at all to deal with, and is already done, as the Fireman is just starting the mission, and LF needs those extra points, so he's looking very nicely, 5th so far on the leaderboard, and will maybe come back up there. Each point equals to 3 seconds on Metal Slug, so every tiny bit of lead helps.
We expected to see LF do very well in this game. Is also strong on Shovel Knight, one of the other 2 games left to play, though I would say Inertia is probably their weakest game of the bunch that they're going to play today. So it's interesting for LF. In a very tricky situation, there are some players who are very good, who have a couple more points than him, keeping him out of the top 4, but with he's on a really strong Metal Slug run, and having a really strong Shovel Knight is going to help a lot. And then being weak on Inertia, you know, the scales are going to balance, and it's really unclear where these players are going to end up. LF for now is at the end of the 5th stage, I think it is, with this really weird boss that only takes a certain amount of damage, and then you kind of just need to worry about dodging for most of the rest of it. So it's going to be kind of on autopilot here, as the other players are really not too far behind.
Yeah, you can see LF just barely waiting, trying to shoot projectiles when the screen is the least busy, and he's done at 46 in time. The boss dies by itself. It's almost like Ridley in Super Metroid. You just deal a bunch of damage, and at some point it will die. Mission 5 complete, as Quick is right at the start dying, the Mats get to the boss, and Fireman is in the middle of the mission. But we get to mission 6, final mission, and that's where everything is going to finish. I'm surprised LF died here, but gets the skip after the death. You have to knife all those 6 enemies at the same time to get the screen to keep on going. Dies immediately with the shotgun, not being able to dodge the shots. He's on the bottom part of the screen, which you want depending on where you are at. When the waves come in, you will have different set of enemies, so you want to be sure your positioning is just right, but dies again, will get his bomb up there, kills everything. He doesn't need to. We'll try to get the shotgun that's waiting for him there. Dies again, no problem, as long as you have your resources going. Gets the bombs, get the shotgun, waiting for them. It's crazy what's happening on screen on the left side, but they should be just fine. Okay, the screen is moving, but they go up first, so they have all 4 prisoners there, and waiting for them is going to be 1 extra shotgun. Shotguns are very important. Strongest weapon in the game, deals the equivalent of 2 bombs worth of damage, so you want to have as much as possible getting into the final boss.
The Mask also on this final section, and like LF, having a bit of trouble with it as well. Lost his pressure shotgun back down to the pistol, and so he is kind of going to be dying and bombing his way through this section as well. Hopefully it goes a little better for Fireman, who is fresh off of death. But yes, like you said, it is super key to make sure that you go into that final boss fight with the shotgun, with the bombs, and whether it was intentional or not, he has triggered the prisoner, which is fine as long as you make sure he doesn't leave the screen, which LF has done. So that shotgun is sitting there. Now he just needs to make sure that he doesn't pick it up too early. Actually going for an intentional death there. I don't know if he wants the heavy machine gun or what, but took a dip in the water. This boat will move on its own for large sections of this auto-scroller. So it is actually, if you time it right, you can game over and just sit on the countdown for a while and have this this lovely little cruise take you along for a little bit. But I think players would rather be ready and in the game to meet these things that stop you. I'm not even sure what they are. They were cranes at some point, maybe, but they're quite broken now.
It's half bridges. I think it's just part of a bridge, just the center pillar and a few bits of the road heading left and right that you have to destroy, which is weird because you are on water, which means you could go around it, but you choose to bonk your head into the pillar and have to
every single part of the bridge. It's
weird. But yeah, we are the final part of the bridge here. We can see the road coming up, but LF chooses to play super safe, has a ton of ammo. 27, 26 shots, 25 shots of shotgun, good enough. The slug with 17 cannon shells and 30 bombs, so he is like fully loaded. You cannot go higher than that here, and it's important. Like, you'd rather have more than not enough, and as long as it goes well for the boss fight here, not taking too much damage, takes one, but you can take one extra hit with the slug at that point. Left going full ham. The mask is almost there with 23 shotgun shells and 28 bombs, is doing fantastic as well. And LF dies with 19 shotgun shells left and 29 bombs.
He did manage to do quite a bit of damage, but, you know, there was definitely more damage to be done that he's not going to be able to do with that shotgun. It is so easy to, when these missiles come swarming in, you just want to be focusing on dealing the damage on the boss. All right, very
so
quick.
Much.
Nice.
Wow, okay. So, very nice run from LF, 13 minutes in. Just, like, killed it at the end. Wow.
Played it pretty safe with the metal slug, still lost the slug and then died, so it just goes to show you how hard it is to avoid taking damage on this final boss fight. And now we're seeing exactly what you don't want to see from this boss fight in Fireman and the Mask. Both of them came in without the shotgun, without the bombs, and it's just, you just die over and over throwing your 10 bombs at the boss. It's just kind of how it feels. It finally pays off for the Mask, who is going to finish not too far behind of LF and Fireman. Still a bit of ways to go. We've got Skunk Off now in the bottom left corner, who is also on the final boss fight and is also stuck throwing these bombs as best he can. Is going to go ahead and take the hit off of this missile drop section. You can't really deal damage to the boss with your pistol, so you might as well die and get 10 more bombs. Didn't want to die there, though.
Quick has so many bombs. He has 49 bombs plus the full health slug. No cannon shells and no shotgun shells, sadly. But they should be able to beat the game on time. 16 minutes for the 100 points. And they have the slug, so they can like go full ham, hammering those bombs. That's what LF didn't do, and they should have done that, because those bombs clear with their huge hitbox, clear the missiles quite nicely, and they're already done with their 49 bombs, which is fantastic. We'll just go full ham with the slug until it dies and go out of it. I do not know if you can like suicide the slug into the boss. That would be pretty useful, like maybe from the top. They didn't do that though. 10 bombs and no up left for Quick. Will throw the bombs as fast as they can, die again, get the heavy machine gun. They should be done quite soon.
Of course, just a little bit more to finish the boss. Sablier also finishing in the top right, and I guess our final racer. Everyone doing a nice job of keeping it close here in Metal Slug. Ghost Death is got the heavy machine gun and is going to be looking to throw these bombs. Is hoping for a good pattern here. Gets the machine gun sweep pattern, which is maybe one of the best ones you can get, but did not get out of the way of the attack. Does finally find that last hit. So a very strong showing from the entire competition. In Metal Slug, we had pretty much, as soon as we got one final boss fight, we pretty much just had final boss fights for every single player that we swapped in. So really nice, consistent performance across the board from the players.
Yeah. I don't know. I do not know how it's going to shake out the leaderboard. We'll take a peek right now. Just after that, we'll make a little break just for players to relax just a little bit before the 2 final games. So here we go. Metal Slug, almost a consistent time between all the players. LF took the lead and passes barely the Mask, takes the 4th place. Skunkoff still in the lead thanks to his fantastic trials. Cute Shadow, controllable sitting at the 2nd place. And Fireman, like, it's getting very close between Fireman, LF, the Mask, and Quick is 50 points behind, but 50 points is nothing when you think about Shovel Knight. So I feel like it's all going to be decided for between 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in Shovel Knight. We'll see how Inertia goes. Ghost Death and Sablier almost have no chance to come back, sadly. And Skunkoff is going to be hard to move from that top place?
I'm looking at what the players have been working on this past week, and I know that Shovel Knight has been something that Fireman has been working on. Kerpweek put most of their effort towards Aria of Sorrow, so Shovel Knight is going to be a big weakness for Kerpweek, so sitting 50 points back, it's going to be tough, but has done a great job of staying within 50 to give themselves this chance. So is going to need to, of course, cross the 100-point mark on Shovel Knight, but is also going to need to come correct for this next game. Inertia is a first-person platformer that has an incredible sense of speed. The players are going to be using a key binding where you slide and jump at the same time, which it just makes it easier. It's actually not too bad to do it manually yourself. It's just having to do it over and over and over 100 times plus over a run. You're probably going to miss it once or twice and go wrong. So the players have got bound to the same button, and hitting this one button will take you from running speed to 3 times that as you soar through the air. And it means that you have very little control once you get going. So it does mean you get an incredible sense of speed and flow if the players are doing it right, and it feels great and it's good and you love it. And then when you miss a jump and you're about to miss a jump and you're holding back and you can't kill off your speed enough to land on the platform, it can also be quite frustrating. So we have seen it be frustrating for some players in past races, and there's a couple of tricky levels, thinking of levels like 29, where it could be a problem. So this is a game that no one is particularly strong at, I think, across the entire UD, really. But it's I don't know, the players have done a pretty good job.
Yeah. The problem is consistency, because we have like super strong players. We have like the world record holder, we have like super good runners of Inertia, and Zora, Melwest, Farziel, Devil Tifa, all of them have like sub 8 times, which are incredible. The real issue is no one ever put like a crazy good time during races, I feel. Obviously we had like solid runs, but there is always that one level that's going to trip some runner, and usually it's either like around like 14, 15, or the final ones, 29, 30, are super tough. And just getting in the groove, going fast, not missing a single platform, taking all the risk, not waiting on any platform to set you up, like it's hard all across like the entire run. So we are going to take a quick break right now. The runners are going to warm up, just grab a cup of coffee, water, whatever they like, just to get ready for Inertia and Shovel Knight, and we will be back in 10 minutes. See you soon. And we're back after a short break. Our runners are getting ready for Inertia and Shovel Knight. Obviously, we are doing those 5 games all in a row. So far, very good result from our players with lots of action going on, Mythical.
Yeah, we expected to see Skunk Off and Cute Shadow at the top, and they are. We also expected a lot of other players to be not too far behind, and they are. It's been a really interesting battle for particularly this 4th place position. This is the cutoff. We are moving on, or we're qualifying the top 4 for the finals next week. So that is where you want to be. You want to be on the top half of this leaderboard, and there is a very, very small gap separating 4th and 5th right now, and for that matter, 3rd and 4th. So these players have only got 2 more games left to play. And it's very unclear who is going to come out into these top 4 positions. Cute Shadow and Skunk Off. Very likely they're going to continue to stay at the top. So between 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, Quick also not too far behind. It is quite unclear. The players all also have varying strengths and weaknesses on these last 2 games. Some players are one of the weaker on Inertia that we're seeing now, and some of them are actually one of the weakest on Shovel Knight and vice versa. So I don't even have a good read on how the players are going to do even over the next 2 games. It is there's a lot up in the air, and it's looking to be a pretty exciting finish to this second turn of our August tournament.
what really matters that we have only 4 spots, and everybody wants there to be there. Ghostdeath and Sablier are going to struggle if they want to make it. They just have to hope for nobody making it past the next 2 games, pretty much. Quick is up there with 408 points, but is 48 points behind the Mask, and even more than that behind LF. So they have to have a superb inertia, but they're the fastest PB on that game between all those 8 runners. So that's that for them. But after that, they're very not likely to finish Shovel Knight in time, as their PB is 1 hour and 1 minute, so it's going to be tough for them. But except that, Fireman, LF, and The Mask all have strengths and weaknesses in the 2 upcoming games. Fireman, being at 471 points, only finished Shovel Knight in time, that's sub-hour, just once. So, I don't know, like, any bet here is risky, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not putting money on anyone. I'm just sitting back and watching, just hands rubbing together. I can't wait to see how this is going to play out. Everyone is very calmly waiting on the title screen, except for Ghostdeath, who is just looking to get in every single last bit of practice. And I'm not sure what level Ghostdeath has managed to get to in this really tough game. Like Inertia, the PB, you know, he's got the weaker PB of the bunch, but it's not really by too much here.
Okay, they have to reset there as the race is starting. Everybody's getting ready, because this is just like, resetting right now. Maybe, I hope. Okay, let's go. So Inertia, what matters about it is that it goes crazy fast, and as the name states that you have a lot of inertia going. So you have to control your momentum and your speed, but your hitbox is very tiny and the platforms are super small as well. So when you go fast and you aim for your double jump to land correctly, it's like you take all the risk all the time. And Fireman, we see them not jumping on that final platform, bonks his head, kills his momentum, and has to start the level all over again.
This is the kind of the kiss of death in this game and a couple others in the UD. Bonking your head will just totally throw you off course and force you to, I mean, usually you just die, but you know, maybe there are cases where you can do some kind of last minute adjustment. That's very rarely the case in this game. We can see the Mask and Quick have jumped out to the early lead, pretty much in sync with each other, looking very strong. Like you said, you have so much inertia in this game, you really don't have much control over your speed forwards and backwards. Where you have your most control is over your height. It's not a lot, because you do have a double jump, but it's not the kind of double jump that totally resets your movement. Fireman getting caught in kind of a weird position here, having to wait for this elevator.
And again, that's a
head bonk.
Huge setback. And we see LF passing them right now. The problem with the cycles is that they don't reset, that you just have to wait for them to go back, even if you reset the level. So that can make you lose a lot of time. You can see on that level, some runners do some nifty tricks going under the final elevator, as we can see Fireman do right now, saving a lot of time compared to LF. But Quick making good progress, already at level 11. Not stopping for anything, and they need that. They're currently in 6th place, but they're making very good progress on Inertia.
Yeah, we expected Quick to do well in Inertia. I don't think I expected him to be doing this well. He's actually, more than levels ahead already through the first third of the game. Very impressive, and like you said, exactly what they need in order to really make a go of challenging the top 4 across these last 2 games. One of the ways that you have control in this game is with your double jump. It's not the kind of double jump that will just reset your momentum and speed and everything. It's weird. It's like if you double jump immediately after you jump, you get more height than if you wait until the peak of your jump and then double jump. It's like a weird momentum stacking double jump. Pretty costly death from Quick there, having set back quite a ways. Dying early in a level, really not so bad. Dying late in a level, especially as long a level as 15, can be quite bad. So big setback, but is recovering nicely. Is going to be just gracefully floating into the door.
Plays it safe at the end here. What I love the most about watching that game is that it looks insane. Like, the runners usually don't even look the way they need to go. They know exactly where they have to jump, especially after the wall runs, and they will just angle their camera wherever it makes them go faster, rather than looking where they have to jump. And like, the movement is just super sweet. And if you want to play the game, I do recommend using the speedrun binding, because it makes the game way more enjoyable. It gives way more speed, and slowly hopping between the platform at the normal 650 speed is pretty slow and pretty boring, and you have to deal with way more hassle than when you have that huge forward leap they are using there.
I'm not sure what engine the game uses. I would guess it was Unity. I don't think it's Source.
It feels like a Unity game for sure. I'm not sure, but it's
definitely trying to model that sort of bunny hopping thing that the Source engine is kind of known for, though.
Oh, maybe it's Unreal. That would work too, but it's not Source. It is reminiscent of the Cased mod, like the maps for CS, where you just had to bunny hop your way through the maps. I know some runners were very into those, especially like Carlito, one of the UD runners that grinded the inertia for a long time, and it's takes its origins there, but just like change the way bunny hop works just a little bit for make it into a real game. And the dev just makes it totally speedrun oriented. We asked specifically for the UD that they add the level number you see on the top right, and they did it for us, so that's awesome of them. And just being for us to be able to see the race going, as Quick is on the 23rd level, getting that first nice jump out of bound almost, but sadly fell at the end.
Yeah, this getting that ledge doesn't really save too much time. You can see how it's done the other way, where you just kind of go along the bottom. You lose a bit more time. So much speed, actually. Clipping the ledge at the top above the door. I don't think I've seen that before. Yeah, usually going fast is a good thing, but in a game all about precision, too much of anything generally not going to work out. But still a fairly healthy lead for Quick. We're just seeing the bright colors of 23 now on any of the other players' screen. It's Fireman, so 2 levels ahead of the second place player of our 4 on stream, and our 4 on stream are quite strong actually, so they might be our 4 leaders, or maybe not. The pack is pretty close on inertia. There's about a 30-40 point spread between best and worst, so it's really hard to say how the others off stream are doing compared to our leaders. But Quick's run, he's had like 1 level with a death that was pretty costly, but otherwise it's been a very solid run, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was indeed our leader of all 8 players.
Nice. LF is struggling a little bit on level 16, allowing the other runners to take a huge lead on them. The time on inertia goes pretty fast. It's a point for each 3 seconds, so you do not want to lose too much time, but there still is Shovel Knight right after that. If LF finishes on time, they will have a good lead, potential lead on Shovel Knight, but still. 29th, the worst level in the game. It's super long, it's super scary, you have to figure out the route you're going through, a couple of tight jumps to climb at the start, but Quick makes it look so easy, and here we go.
That was a first try in 29 for Quick, going nuts on the camera. That's not just for show. You actually do go a little faster when your camera is moving. Well, I guess it's not your camera so much as it is your player is actually turning. Maybe, I'm not sure what the actual underlying mechanic is.
It's strafing. If you move the camera, you are at an angle compared to your camera and your direction. So the game considers your strafing and gives you a little bit extra speed, but not for long. So you have to switch back and forth left and right to gain as much momentum as you can. And if you watch the IELTS on speedrun.com, he's doing that constantly. So it's almost not a good watch, but like the final time at the end is crazy. And you can see the speed on the top left corner for all those runners. Usually if you walk, you go at 650. If you do the double bind, jump and slide, you will go at 1840, is it? And if you go ham and strafing and wall jumping, you can go up to like 3000. So it's just crazy. You can quintuple your speed compared to just walking, but just with optimizations.
Fantastic run from Qualifier is already done. We saw level 29 for Fireman, and just at the very end now for the Mask. It's always dodgy at the end after a really hard level, but the Mask does it. He does die very quickly at the start of 30, but like I said, restarting a level early on is really not too bad. You just gotta hope that he doesn't get in your head a little bit. He had a couple resets, and in that time, Fireman has had a chance to get the better of 29. He's going to make sure he kind of lays it up a little bit there and stop short to make sure he lands on that platform. So keeping it very close between him and the Mask. LF, the number is too small for me to make out here, but it is 20 something.
20 seconds. 20-second level.
22nd
game. Yeah.
What is it to but a backwards 5?
Exactly.
Close enough.
Same. Yeah. Getting to 23rd, we can recognize that level pretty nicely with the open environment. As Fireman gets to the last one open map, 31st, is almost there. Qualifier is done, has been done for a long time. Skunkov gets to the end in second place there. Skunkov doing fantastic today. I do not know where Cute Shadow is, but maybe already done as well. The Mask gets to the end, the final swing to with a final time of 614 seconds, a little bit more than 10 minutes.
Players doing a good job of keeping it close and doing a good job of making work for our broadcasters, trying to get these streams swapped in on time just to show off all these players finishing. LF had some struggles early on, back in level 16 or so, and has been playing from behind ever since. Nasty death there in 26, I think this is.
Yeah, it was the red TP in the middle.
Yeah. So he's actually going to take a moment there to make sure it's lined up correctly this time.
It's a very short game, but you can get like a nice. It's a cheap game also, and just if you get into speedrunning it and trying to optimize everything, it's fairly interesting. There are some challenges level we do not do in the speedrun mode, but yeah, if you like what you see, that's pretty much what you get. Like it's 32 levels, very hard to optimize, but the game is very speedrun focused. So if you are not into speedrunning yourself, maybe it's on the shorter side.
And if you play it and you find that it feels very different from what you're seeing, definitely look into how the speedrunners have kind of set up their controls and things that will drastically change the way that you play. If you want to be playing like this, it might be too hard to control. I don't know. I definitely struggled with it at first, so it's kind of personal preference. But yeah, you're not going to be able to do what these guys are doing, most likely, without some of these keybinds. LF is coming up a little bit here on the cutoff, so has 5 levels left to go. Is still doable for sure, but so I'm starting to think about it a little bit here.
Yeah, it's getting scary. We are already at 12:30. The time limit is actually 13:30, so they have to hurry up, and they have the hardest level to go, and not scoring any point on inertia is going to put a big damper on their chances to qualify, actually. Like, I'm scared, man, right now for them. They have to go faster than that, and they have to wait a lot of cycles here, taking too much time to set them up between each jump and falling there where you should not fall. Elif, what's happening to you?
This is pretty much over with the timer ticking. To remind our viewers, not meeting the cutoff means that you score a 0, and if you were to get in just under the cutoff, you would score 100 points. So you were talking about 100-point difference just for being a little bit off this cutoff point. It is very important, and LF is in the running with a number of other players who to take one of these top 4 positions and qualify. So continuing on with a 0 is going to be, I don't know if it's even, I mean, Shovel Knight's a nasty game. We could see some 0s from some other players, but is going to need a couple of 0s from a couple other people in order to make this happen. I knew that LF was much stronger on Shovel Knight and not so strong on Inertia, but you know, LF's PB in Inertia is wait, no, this was there is no PB for LF on the leaderboard for Inertia. I was confusing him with Ghost Death, who has a 175. So he is also not going to finish. Well, he did start late. I'm not sure how late. I don't think it was that late. I guess we'll see, actually, because he disappeared off of our 8-person camera when the race started. But there may have been some confusion with when the race started or something.
They probably missed the start. It happens, you know, 8 players doing 5 races each. Like, that's 40 starts. You know, sometimes you will just miss it. It's okay. They got maybe confused with when the break was ending. So they just are at 10:30, still making progress, but a bit short of what they should be having on Inertia. Sadly, they spent their week on Shovel Knight, Eye of Sorrow, Metal Slug, and maybe did not de-rest the game, so all those jumps seems a little bit rusty for me. Missing that final wall jump at the end here, making him fall to their death again.
Yeah, he's really going for it too. Like, this is not an easy wall jump that he's attempting at the end of the level, and it's not strictly required. There are a couple other platforms you could go for, but it's just comfortable with his route to do what he practiced and go for it. So we are unfortunately gonna not know how that jump turns out for Ghost Death. The run will continue. I'm sure it was just a stream issue and not a computer issue. So he is still running. His time will still be submitted, and it will still be on the leaderboard. So don't fret if you're worried about Ghost Death. It's just a little unfortunate we don't get to see the end of that run. We did see the end of the runs for a lot of other players. And I guess the big thing is that we didn't see the end of a run for LF. Is going to be finishing with a 0 on this leaderboard as we know. We're going to look at Shovel Knight. This is the next game, the last game of the list, the biggest game, the most speed runningest game, I think, of the bunch, to use a ridiculous term. A fantastic game, and is going to be a fitting finish for our tournament.
Yeah, the lineup for UD6 is definitely like very, very race and speedrun oriented, like with some very difficult games, longer games. Shovel Knight is probably the most iconic of those. We announced it first, and it makes for a super tough lineup. Maybe UD6 is even a little bit too hard. I'm thinking a lot of it about myself, because we ask so much about those runners, but a lot of them are able to do it. So whatever, right? Just throw games at them and they will not stop for anything. So Shovel Knight being able to finish that game in under an hour is just crazy. It goes super fast. You have a lot of different routes, a lot of different options. The boss fights matter a lot, but everything is going to kill you pretty much in one hit. You are going to jump to your death. You are going to encounter spikes all the time. It is crazy, and let's see how well the runners have to do to get to that top 4.
So where we stand, Skunkoff sitting pretty in first, about 20 points ahead of Cute Shadow, who is a massive 60 points ahead of Fireman. So our top two are kind of establishing themselves here a little bit. This is kind of what we expected. And remember that top two is going to be important for the players who move on to next weekend. It is only going to be two who qualify for grand finals. So, but let's getting ahead of ourselves. What's important now is the top four, and now we're seeing this battle. Fireman, the Mask, and I thought it was going to be LF was going to be the third name competing with these three, and then Kerpuik would be a little bit behind. But Kerpuik with a fantastic inertia run, and LF with the 0 means they've kind of swapped places, and there's now just 30 points between Fireman and Kerpuik, and only 2 of those 3 will qualify for the finals next weekend. So, I mean, if a bunch of Shovel Knight disasters happen to some of these other players, LF can get back in there, but
it's going to be tough. They have to score like over 147 points pretty much, and their PB on races is 110. So they have like their PB overall is 156. So they can do it totally, but still they have to hope for 2 fails. An incredible time, but Fireman and Kerpuik have very little chance to beat the game on time. So it's going to be super tough for LF, but they're going to give the best they have. It's going to be an incredible race. Skunkoff and Q-Shadow will qualify. It's 100% sure right now. They are in the lead for next week finals. Next week we are going to play 5 games the Saturday, 5 games on Sunday. Those 4 runners are going to be full on streaming all their 10 games. We are going to follow them through throughout the weekend. And top 2 will qualify for the grand finals. So that's where you want to be at. And top 4 of the grand finals, we will be invited in France live to play in a movie theater. You'll be there, I'll be there. It's going to be incredible. It'll be streamed on Speed Gaming, of course, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So a lot of pressure on those guys getting ready, and Shovel Knight, Sablier getting his King Knight quick kill ready, and everybody is getting ready. Sub 1 hour hype for Kerpuik. LF very disappointed with inertia, I guess.
We can see we saw you get a name select in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, and chat was pretty sad that most of the players opted to just put their name into the name slot rather than some sort of message. But I kind of like the little messages because it gives us some insight into how the players are feeling. And on the other hand, I guess I don't want to feel the negative feelings that LF certainly has about that inertia run. We'll see if he's able to shake that off and do the Shovel Knight he needs to do, such that if things do go wrong for his competitors and they do end up not beating the cutoff for Shovel Knight, which is very hard, then with a strong enough run, LF can be there to just kind of zip into one of those top 4 positions. For now, they're all ready to strike the earth in the first level here, going with the leap of faith going well for all 4 players now. Shovel Knight is a fantastic game, fantastic speed run. We're seeing a lot of this pogo. I'm not sure how much we'll see of the bubble wrap coming up, one of the few sort of out of bounds, kind of glitchy things that you can do in this game. There's not too much of it, but you do get a taste of something pretty early on here.
It got so synced between Skunkoff and LF, chat got confused and thought it was the same feed. But now it's 2 different feeds, look how synced they are throughout the first few levels. LF getting to that screen first, but Fireman is right on his tail, and Skunkoff right behind them, and Kerpuik would get to the screen as LF leaves it. The intro I like a lot, the Plane of Justice, because it gives you a nice feel for the movement. It's a DuckTale meets Mega Man type of game. Very platform oriented, but you have to deal with all the enemies. All the enemies are moving platforms you can use if you pogo off them, and it gets very technical. And Fireman setting up the first little glitch we have in that game, moving the dragon forward and then waiting for the bubbles for the dreaded bubble ramp, setting it up right now and getting it, not getting the gentle hop at the end, having to break the wall, but still saving a little bit of time compared to Skunkoff and Kerpwikwik.
Yeah, it looked like he had fallen back a little bit, and then naturally through the wrap had jumped ahead, and now we see that things are still quite close between all the players. LF in first, going with the Black Knight stun lock. This is your first... well, I guess we've seen some shovel canceling throughout the level, especially when you're underneath those blocks and you're repeatedly just smashing jump and attack to sort of chew your way through the blocks. That is shovel canceling. The players have also been shovel canceling to sort of drive by the piles of gold and earn a bit of gold without stopping, but the main use of it here, locking down the Black Knight, it's kind of the same thing as slash canceling in Aria of Sorrow, really. You're just attacking in the air, and when you attack in the air and land afterwards, you're free to jump and cancel your attack animation. So with some clever use of attacking in the air and well-timed jumps, you can get this repeated attacks in on particularly the Black Knight to lock him down. We'll be seeing some more shovel canceling pretty much throughout every boss fight, though the King Knight fight that we're seeing, which is the level LF, Kerpwikwik and Fireman have all started. This is where it's the first boss fight that's your first real meaty boss fight of the game. There is some shovel canceling. There's some pogos you can throw in. It's really involved, and it's the first example of one of many very difficult boss fights in this game that are so important for speedrunning it.
So the entire game is about boss fight, pretty much. It's very important. All the upgrades and everything we are getting is oriented towards killing the boss fast, especially the boss rush. Not that much being able to go through the levels. The only real movement upgrade is the Propeller Dagger. The Dust Knuckles are quite important also, but they will be used on the bosses as well. And so far we have nothing anyway to go through the level. Very little HP for LF. They will get HP up very soon. So here we go. Nice lucky drop here. Fireman does not even try to go for that drop. And you can see the runners break the checkpoint. So it gives you money, but that means more risk taken.
Yeah, I'm not sure what routes the players are all going to be taking. I expect to see a lot of Chaos Orb. I expect to see a lot of extra health. You can play it really risky. There is a armor upgrade that gives you more magic called the Conjurer's Coat. The downside is that you take an extra half heart of damage from all attacks. So half heart goes to a full heart, and full heart actually goes to 1.5. So if you stick with, say, your 4 max health that you start with at the beginning of the game, you could die in as few as 3 hits in certain situations, and it is very risky. So even the really strong players, barely having enough time, Fireman. Even strong players will opt to grab some max health upgrades, and plenty of UD players have opted to almost fully upgrade their max health because they want to get the extra magic out of that Conjurer's Coat.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally understandable. LF getting a fantastic fight very quickly. Fireman going for that kill, so getting stuck between the ceiling and the boss with downward attack to get as many damage as he can, but gets to the slash cycle, which means it's a pretty slow fight here. Still gets it without dying, very important. Kerpwikwik starting the fight right now, only 3 HP, boss is already half dead. We're getting there. Nice shovel cancelling there. The swing patterns with only 2 HP remaining for the boss. He's almost dead. This is a very slow fight, but still, it's okay. Boss dead. We can move on. Already 6 minutes and a half passed to get through the first 2 levels.
LF going to be moving on to the Lich Yard first. Fireman following, not too short behind. He is going to be able to make it. Okay. Nice. Yeah, the lava section, there's just it's a small wait, just a small hesitation will get you through. But that's assuming you get there on the right cycles lined up with everything else. I guess if something happened earlier, maybe that would throw you off. So we'll see what kind of King Knight fight the Mask has. LF's was fantastic. The others were okay. You kind of the slash. Certainly, a good player can beat King Knight before that slash comes out. But for our UD players, I'm not. I think the slash is going to be pretty common. What you really want to do is you don't want to see this confetti. That's the confetti of you messed up this boss fight. Hooray!
Congrats to you, it's slow. But the mask is done, which is pretty neat. The Lich Yard is where the difficulty gets like a big bump. Like it's way harder, a lot of things will kill you. You almost cannot get a one-hit KO on the at the Proudmoore Keep, but on the Lich Yard you have those dark section, you have a lot of enemies, the boss is super deadly, and yeah, it's usually where newer player will get their first death. We saw a lot of runners die in that very level, multiple die during the UD, but so far it goes well for all the runners. LF is doing a fantastic job, but Fireman is keeping it up, and Fireman only beat the game in under 1 hour once, so seeing them on par with LF is actually very good for them.
Yeah, this is really important. There are some players who are sitting very prettily in the top 4, who simply need to finish Shovel Knight to maintain their position. There are, which is a bigger ask than you'd think for this game and for certain players. They've put their efforts in elsewhere, and Shovel Knight is the hardest game I think to finish under the goal, and just in terms of the amount of effort and time it requires. So that is the goal for some players. The goal for LF is to curse them so that they don't finish, first of all, but also put up a fantastic run. Needs to finish just 9 points away from personal best. Very, very big ask in Shovel Knight. But honestly, it's kind of similar to what the other players are up against. A lot of their PBs are just over 100 points, and so in order to get above 100 points and meet the cutoff, they need to be playing very close to their PB the way that LF needs to in order to score enough points to capitalize on any zeros that pop up. So players it really matters here in Shovel Knight. They need this to go well, and it looks like it is so far for LF and Fireman. Kerpweek and the Mask, their runs they're okay, they're solid, and they need to stay that way through pretty much the whole game. If they start to slip even a little bit,
okay,
that could be it. Fireman gets Spectre Knight down.
Slow fight, but made it. Kerpweek is almost going to be able to catch up if they have like a correct juggle on Spectre Knight, and bad luck, sadly, that means they're going to lose a lot of time there, and not going for the hits at the sides comes back, waiting for the forward slash. That all the boss fights can go super quickly. If you watch the world record, it's incredible. But sadly, you have to deal with RNG and little bit of and a lot of execution on all those fights, and being able just to survive that game is already incredible. Kerpweek lives by Spectre Knight's dead, and Fireman's is in the dream, as LF is already done with that. Going into town, and I guess it's going to be 2 meal tickets and Chaos Orb, maybe?
That's my bet. Chaos Orb is the real reason to detour to the town at this point. So sure enough, he is going to go ahead and pick it up. This is a sub-weapon you can use. There's a couple different ones, and some players opt to get different ones for their routes. It's mostly Flame Wand, Chaos Orb that are kind of the main options that players opt to either get or not get. Though we have seen some Phase Locket from players, a pretty expensive item that gives you temporary invincibility for a short period of time. Which sounds great, but it's got this sort of animation associated with it every time you use it that really eats up a lot of time. But that was pretty cool to see that used by one player. I don't think we're going to see it today. We're seeing more Chaos Orb from Fireman as well. Kerpweek just finished with the Dream, picking up a meal ticket. We'll see if he decides to go to town now as well.
if you want to see the player cards for the players, you can go to the leaderboard, and on the left of each player name you have a little squared button. You can click on them and get all the player cards you need. If you want all the infos, all the PBs, everything is on the UD website anyway, so you can take your time to browse that to see how well everybody is doing. You have the leaderboard for every single race time, obviously. Speaking of race time, LF is making a very good progress here, clearly on par with what they've done on their best race on Shovel Knight, and they need that. Like, they have to go full speed on that game to have the slightest chance to get there next week.
It's a really big ask. Shovel Knight is a very tough game. A lot of players have made sort of, I don't know if it was, you know, a conscious choice or not, but some, you know, they approach it more safely than they would in a going for a personal best, because it is such a tough game. It's such a punishing game that very few players have been able to get close to their PB in a race throughout the entire UD. So it is definitely a big ask that we're expecting from these players. So far, everyone is deathless, so, you know, pretty much phenomenal so far.
Yeah, I'm scared now you said that, just because of
as soon as
Chemistry
it
Curse,
left my mouth,
and
I realized what a horrible thing that was.
The ruins, the Mole Knight level, where everybody is the level that probably killed the most players. Excepting like boss fights maybe, but like even in the July tournament during the finals, everybody died there, and it was super scary. So yeah, the lava kills you in one hit, obviously, and there are a lot of skips you can go for. The Beetle skip, nobody is going to go for that, as the Mask and Kerpwick are slowly waiting for that huge thing to pass by. It's walking on lava.
Breaking
what
that
is made
checkpoint.
of? Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough beetle, man. This is his home. This is,
yeah. It's
walking through lava is just Thursday for this guy. No big deal. LF broke a very important checkpoint with that beetle, but he goes ahead and has the bravery to jump and do the dust knuckle blocks. It's not as scary as it looks, I suppose, but it's still, after breaking that checkpoint, had me a little worried. But he's totally fine into the Mole Knight fight, throwing off those Chaos Orbs. If you place your orbs correctly, they'll actually travel at the same speed as Mole Knight back and forth across the screen and rack up a ton of damage. So a very strong, another strong boss fight from LF, wrapping up Mole Knight, and is like, just look how far ahead he is of these other players. Already half a stage, and we're only on the fourth stage.
We missed it, but chat is telling us that the Mask actually died on the Leech Yard, losing a lot of money in the process. And money management is super important at the start of the game, so that's why they're making a little bit of detours to grab cash here and there, just because they want to be able to buy everything they need, including the Dust Knuckles that are coming super shortly. And okay, they made they were very careful not breaking everything. They need like 4K here? Oh, it's 3K, okay, they're good. Perfect. I was scared for a little bit.
Fireman had some hesitation entering the Mole Knight boss fight, but he is in the fight proper now, and he gets a lot of damage in on the left side of the screen, which is what you want, but hopefully you get him before he digs, so it's just a little bit slow, but able to wrap it up as soon as he comes out of the ground. Nice, basically a whole nice Lost City there from Fireman, who, like you said, is, I mean, he's a fair bit behind LF in the grand scheme of things, but when you consider that LF has got the PB of like 156 points in Shovel Knight, and where is Fireman on Shovel Knight? He is at 109, so there's like a 50-point difference between these players in Shovel Knight. To be only half a stage back at this point means that Fireman's playing really well, because certainly LF is not playing poorly. He's got to be happy with his run so far. Caprique waiting on this beetle with the mask. They're very close to each other. And this is kind of the last scary moment of the Lost City.
Hit. Okay. Nice. They made it. Took 2 hits, but it doesn't matter too much. That screen killed a lot of players. You can break too many blocks and just fall to your death. Fireman playing safe, waiting there, and LF at the mini boss. I like Quick's Fire Wand. That's my favorite route, just because it's way more reliable than the Chaos Orb. It's slower, but it just does whatever you want it to do. Oh, Mole Knight is not going to die. He has to suffer through the pattern here. They can launch their the blinking fire dots at the boss, but it's kind of tough, so they waited for the entire cycle and they're done already. But 4th place for Quick, and Quick has to work for that because they're 5th place right now and they're probably the less likely runner to qualify for those finals.
Yeah, the odds are definitely against Quick and LF. They need their runs to be great, and they need something bad to happen to their opponents. Though I think in Quick's chance that it's possible that he could just outplay someone. Someone could get 100 points barely, and if Quick has a fantastic run, we could maybe see him earn enough points over the 100 to close the gap and take one of those top 4. But it's definitely an uphill battle. They're in the Explodatorium looking pretty solid. All the players in the Explodatorium, LF coming up on the boss fight now. They've all got their 6 health, so that's going to help a lot against this fight. Very easy to take damage, as Plague Knight just kind of, impossible to pin down. And there's a lot of attacks that are pretty much unavoidable if you want to be even a little bit fast on this fight. You need to be in his face, and that means it's incredibly hard to dodge attacks. So accept that you're going to take some damage and just try to race Plague Knight down.
Oh,
LF are doing a pretty good job of winning the race down to that last little hit there, actually, and then took a while to find it, but does, so is now done with Plague Knight.
Quick on that section here, playing super safe to be sure he's not thrown into the sailing spikes. Taking his time though. Everything takes time if you go slowly into the Explodatorium. It's all cycle based, and if you wait for every single cycle, you are going to have a bad time. But it's still better than dying. So LF is nicely in the lead now. He's going to buy a new set of weapons and armor, so they're just ready for the second half of the game.
No.
And Quick falls to his death into the pit. The little slime got them.
That's not the worst death, but it is pretty bad. He was on this screen, but it's a long screen, and there's a lot of kind of waiting involved. You don't have to wait for the birds dropping the potions, but if you are not ready with the fastest strats and you're ready to make use of it, then there is quite a bit of waiting, because these birds are coming at the wrong time. Firemen in the right place at the right time, taking out Plague Knight with plenty of health left over. And I did miss a death from the mask. I was pretty sure I saw him just start from a checkpoint, and sure enough, there's the money floating as well. Explodatorium, not quite as high a death rate, I think, as Lost City, that most of the players managed to escape deathless, but it is still a pretty big offender for claiming the lives of our poor runners.
Yeah, it's a lot of cycles of skips you can go for, and clearly it does not work so well sometimes. But Fireman and LF making very good progress, getting their purple suit, the Conjurer's coat, getting the Charge Slash, also very important item to deal double damage when you have time to charge your sword, well, your shovel. And sure enough, we're getting to the Iron Well, the Treasure Knight level. I like Treasure Knight. I do not like that auto-scroller so much. It's quite painful, and if you are too hasty, you can die getting hit by a fish or two. And getting that boss in one cycle can be super tough. But Elf gets it barely.
The one cycle is really what you're looking for, and it looks like he used... No, not gonna... Wait, he did. Yeah,
he
is
did
gonna
buy
get the
the
anchor.
Nice.
This is a sort of safety convenience item that some players have opted to get. It doesn't offer a whole lot. There's a couple situations where being able to attack something above you is useful, but it's mostly pretty niche. Nice little skip there from LF as the Mask is into the Plague Knight fight, trying to find this last hit. The Pogo doesn't quite get him there. He has a lot of health, so he's going to get this for sure, but he is bleeding seconds here, finally finding the last hit. It is mostly going to be about not dying in this game.
How did Quick caught up to the Mask so well? Oh, the Mask died maybe once, so that's how... But they're done almost at the same time.
Very good job in the Explodatorium on the recovery, I guess, from that one screen that I think got both of them. Fireman now into the auto-scroller in the Iron Whale. The one cycle on the fish is what you're looking for. The charge was just a little bit too early, so... Also, the fish is pretty high. It can kind of vary its height, and the higher it is, the harder it is to get rapid hits, so he's going to need the second cycle.
They did not use the Dust Knuckles, which is weird. On the final slash, they were high enough to get a couple of hits and would have dealt with it in one cycle. Just gone like super safe. The Dust Knuckle can throw you off, like getting a little bit desynced and just falling to your death, I guess, but they're playing carefully. Pretty much doing what they know, waiting here for a cycle. They're going for a lot of skips, but don't have too much success, but they are going for stuff that do not cost too much time. So it just shows knowledge about the game, but not enough practice, maybe.
LF, very practiced, had the rush down on Treasure Knight with the Chaos Orbs, went very smoothly. A very strong run continues for LF. This was the Shovel Knight run that they needed in order to capitalize on anything that happens. The Mask showing off one of the strengths of the Chaos Orb, taking out those, I don't know what they are. They're kind of like seaweed or like anemones, but they are also snake-like living creatures. But whatever they are, the Chaos Orb drops right down there and takes them all out before they block your path. So that's a nice little feature there. The Mask dies as soon as we see some of the other players. Skunkoff is in the Explodatorium, so Skunkoff actually not having a good Shovel Knight or is on a completely different route. I'm not sure. Is probably far enough in first that even a really bad Shovel Knight will still be okay for him, but this is probably not how he wanted to finish his really strong tournament progress. We can see the gold there from a pretty bad death. It almost happened again. We also got Sablier in the Iron Whale. More Iron Whale from our other off-stream competitors.
What's important for Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, even though they're probably getting there next week, is that they want the best Shovel Knight they can at least next week. And right now it's good practice, good showing that what they know, what their weaknesses and strengths are, and maybe like Skunkoff being a little bit off on Shovel Knight will mean that they will practice more that game next week. So it's pretty important to do the best you can, even though you are already there. Yeah, Shovel Knight's definitely the hardest game of UD6, up there with some others, but it's definitely the most costly for a lot of them. Quick buying the anchor. Once again, I like the anchor because it's a good safety on the stranded ship, on the tower, and especially on the Propeller Knight fight.
Yeah, that LF is steadily making progress towards. It's pretty much a whole level ahead of the competition at this point. Fireman picking up the meal ticket after the dream sequence, trying to make a liar out of me, chasing LF into the flying machine. LF in the mini boss fight now, doing a good job of using the Dust Knuckles to track him down. There's a cute little thing you can do if you finish that fight with a pogo. The mask would have preferred a pogo
They-
over falling directly into that pit.
They fell on the anchor, but just like a few pixels before it got on screen. Like, that was super tight, and they just went for it, just trying to save frames, and sadly it was not rewarded.
There's some you can get really crazy on those anchors if you really want to go for it. So pretty surprising, but shame it didn't work out. LF has got the propeller dagger now, big movement item. It's one of the biggest reasons why you go for the Conjurer's Coat, is just so that you have more propeller dagger juice. Struggling a little bit, was like, do I want the pot? Do I need the pot? I'm not going to get the pot. I'm going to do the cycles, electricity. He's losing health. He's just waiting here. He's feeling bad, but finally he's going to be able to move on.
There. He lost like 3 cycles when you can get for the first one, and okay, he's waiting there. Like, LF went on 2 screens from like the perfect run for them to like kind of the worst fling machine they can. They just have to get back up there using a lot of Chaos Orb to clean those Jawas. Very nicely done. You'd rather take your time on that screen rather than trying to rush it and dying, because those guys are the worst.
LF is bricking blocks here. I'm not sure if he is interested in the money that he was picking up. I don't think so at this point. Could maybe be thinking about some extra health upgrades, but in terms of utility, he's pretty much set. Fireman is about ready to get the propeller dagger, so he is actually fairly close. I mean, there's some auto-scrollery stuff that is between him and LF that makes this appear, makes them appear closer than they perhaps actually are. The mask finishing off Treasure Knight, chasing Kerpuik, who is now into the dream section after the Treasure Knight fight, and Kerpuik's fighting, so he's looking for money. He's got more purchases left to make, and dream sequences are a good way to get that money. It's not as fast as if you just kill yourself and end the dream sequence early, but it's something that players have been choosing to do in a lot of situations, getting some extra money, getting some extra safety and consistency.
Alright, final few screens for LF, going for the fast cycles on those that wind. It can get super scary, especially on that one where you want to go full ham with your 3 propellers dagger. Here makes it clearly through, very nice, and just will go using the enemies, not waiting for the cannonballs, and we'll get to the propeller fight, like in the lead, pretty solid. Fireman died, I guess, because they are back at where the propeller dagger is about, but still already had it, so have to go through the entire game again. Wow, Fireman is probably the safer of all the runners we have right now. The mask has to work for it, like, quite importantly. And LF is just using his Anchor here to get a few hits and get the kill. Nice. And falls, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Ty does go to the runner in this situation. Kerpuik detoured to pick up some extra health, and that's it. I actually thought that I was sure I was going to look at his gold value and be like, and now he's got enough for the Conjurer's Code and the charge handle or whatnot, but actually I think he upgraded his max magic, so I think he's going without the Conjurer's Code, so doesn't want to have to deal with taking the extra damage. He is going to go with a tankier build that will have less magic.
This is the classic Fire Wand build for newer players. You don't go too crazy on magic, or and you go just like 7 health, which is more than double what you normally have if you're using the Conjurer's Coat route, and you're going with some mana upgrades, so you do not have, you have only like 20 less than the Conjurer's Coat on the mask, LF or Fireman's Crane. As I look up Fireman's Crane, I see them dead. Fell down maybe just there or after the Jawa's screen, but I'm having a lot of troubles there.
Yeah, that is the dreaded triple Java screen. It has a name because it is notorious for those enemies. I mean, they're the worst enemies in the game, for sure, 100%.
Yeah,
little just go away.
The fact that they move so erratically, and just the fact that they push you, like, it's no one likes them. It's okay. It's It'll be there. They are. How did he die there? This is like the end of the screen. He just must have tripped on the ladder and maybe get a hit somehow trying to bounce on those cannonballs. But okay, he's past there. I hate those couple of screens because you can fall back down to the previous one. And those spikes are kind of scary, and those fan platforms kind of push you weirdly. But he's through. He's going to make it to the top, almost at the boss right now, while the Mask and Quick are in sync at the mini boss. Quick is done first. The Mask is losing time left and right. They have to work for that sub-hour, which looks still doable, but it's getting more and more distant.
Yeah, they did a good job of basically not dying early on, but the deaths are starting to add up, and it's the kind of thing that you just can't afford if you want to go for that sub-hour mark in this game. So a really good job early on has afforded them the room to have those couple of deaths, but they've used up that room now. There's no more room for, okay, I didn't know you could stand on that, but you can stand on that. The Mask is okay. Everything's okay. Quick and the Mask both coming out of the room as Fireman going into the Propeller Knight fight. Missed one of his charge slashes, so he's missing out on quite a bit of damage. And considering he's just charging up his slash there, I don't think he has the anchor, so he's going to be doing this nice little combo and sent up into the sky.
Nice.
Does come down.
Last hit.
Needs one more hit. There we go.
So yeah, cool fight from Fireman, but LF has an entire level worth of lead now. He's just starting to fight Tinker Knight, as nobody's even there yet. Fireman finishing the level, the Mask and Quick having a nice sync on those Jawas here. And yeah, LF seems to be playing just like trying to avoid dying, but actually his execution is pretty damn spot on, and also he's saving time everywhere while not dying, which is crazy. So yeah, that's exactly what they need. Going full ham on Tinker Knight is already done. Super clean fight, very nice. LF confirming his lead, and will head to the stranded ship, final level before the tower.
Yeah, the Tower of Fate is it's a pretty daunting thing. Just, I mean, by the look of it, I guess, but in terms of gameplay, it is some of the hardest levels in the game. And oh, the Mask getting pushed down by that fan, just barely, not quite. Your hitbox kind of extends in a weird way that the propeller dagger will. Okay, he's gonna keep going now. Stem the bleeding. Okay, he did not hit the spikes, but that is a long fall. That is a big time loss, and in a lot of ways, it can be just as bad as a death. So, pretty bad stuff there for Quick. Is, you know, like I said,
falls again.
Just get the ladder.
I hate those levels, but like those few screens are the worst. But still, you have at some point to make it, and you have to play safe. Stop going for those propeller dagger if they are too risky for you. They don't save you anything. If you step on the ladder, that level with that enemy is going to jump on it. Very nice. I'd rather see a clean room rather than trying to go for it again multiple times. Waiting for the first cycle here. Quick playing super slowly, not using the propeller dagger at all. Just going for the nice, correct way to pass the screen if you are not using any magic.
Their Mask with almost a pure pogo strat on the Propeller Knight fight. Death for Quick. Pretty. Not the worst death, not the best death to take. I mean, no death is good, but some are definitely better than others. The Mask's very slow, safe approach to the Propeller Knight fight does pay off. He does get that kill. That's going to open up the gap between the upwards wind stalled long enough for that to come back and save Quick. He'll need all the help he can get in that situation. Fireman, pretty far along the clock tower. But it's LF way out in front on most of the way through the stranded ship now, showing off another good usage of the anchor.
Yeah, that's the that anchor gets you like the 3 enemies killed in one go. Very useful. That screen can get pretty tricky if you want to go with the no item approach, which is usually like taking an intentional hit, getting pushed towards the next ladder, and it can get tricky. So, very nice knowledge of the game once again, LF, using his gear, mobile gear, and nice way to deal with those enemies, and just not stopping. Very nice level from LF, getting to the Polar Knight fight, probably the best fight when you have the Chaos Orb, just going full ham, not having too much mana points, sadly. 22, waiting for that cycle to go, and boom, he's already done.
The Chaos Orb's doing a lot of work at the end of the fight there. He had the pogo, so he was just way up in the air. Couldn't come down and deal damage with his shovel, but throwing off the Chaos Orbs, both of them just followed Shovel Knight over to the side, or Polar Knight rather, over to the side of the screen. And that did all the work to take them down. Looking at some of the other players, we saw some Tinker Knight from Sablier, and didn't see too much of the others.
Skunkov was still in the flame machine, so he's behind the mask and Kerpwick. It's starting to look dire for them to be able to finish in sub-hour. And sadly, even if they qualify with only 4 games, which is incredible, showing how good they are at the 4 others, that means it's going to be those 100 points they're going to lack next week, potentially. And alright, we'll see how all that goes, but probably some Shovel Knight derusting next week for Skunkov.
The mask with a death in the clock tower. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but he's on this pretty long section here. Okay, it was on this screen, good. Not too bad a death, still a little bit ahead of Kerpwick. But, I mean, they're obviously competing with each other, but they're also competing with players like LF, like Fireman, who are doing very well. So, it's going to be tough for the both of them. That timer is ticking.
And
that cutoff approaches,
fast,
and it's going to be kind of the decider here.
The world record is almost done with the game. That's the most mind-blowing thing about Shovel Knight. You can save time everywhere, and you have like movement optimization, fight optimization, overall routing, just taking a lot of intentional hits, taking a lot of risks, and the runners cannot do that. Like you would have to spend like countless hours in the game. Here they just have to go for a reliable, fast way to beat Shovel Knight, and it's just hard, you know?
Yeah, we've even seen like the top players, like the Mel West and the Devil Tifa, like they're not anywhere close to Smoggy's world record. They're not even the highest on the UD leaderboard, actually. We've still got for Shovel Knight, it's still Explode Your Ear put up a 199 point run back in April, way back. That our players are still, 20 points back from almost. So the skill cap in Shovel Knight is just nowhere near what a player can reasonably hope to achieve within the constraints of the Ultime Decathlon. So it gives rise to some interesting strats that they all come up with to sort of, do what works for them. And that's why you see stuff like certain players pick up the Anchor or the Chaos Orb or the Flame Wand, and it's definitely one of my favorite parts of seeing how the UD comes together.
Yeah, seeing like how risky or fast you can make a game go, or how consistent you have to be, and how hard it is, and certainly Shovel Knight is up there on the harder games to get running into that kind of setting. So the mask almost done with Tinker Knight, as Kerpwick is just starting the fight, landing the one-hit KO on the first phase. Fireman getting that secret Castlevania like health upgrade, health into the wall, getting to the Polar Knight fight. And LF is just like going full ham on the Black Knight refight there. Black Knight got a nice upgrade of skills. LF going for those slash cancelling, very precise, and will get a few hits there, trying to get on top of Black Knight at the end, landing a lot of hits, and is going to be done, gets hit by the meteorite. But the anchor strats are real. A final hit, and they will be done, sadly.
Where is he?
Black Knight
Where's
goes
that final hit?
Yeah. Oh, ping ponging.
Oh, I didn't know
okay,
this
here
was
we
a
go.
thing. Okay, that was cool. I actually didn't know that you could play Ganon ping pong with Black Knight. That was cool. Okay. Black Knight down for LF. Kerpweek done with the dream sequence fireman, entering the dream sequence of a different level, rather. He's on the stranded ship. And Kerpweek just starting the mask partially through, and LF moving on to the second stage of the tower.
Kerpweek goes for that skip at the start, but misses the first cycle, has to wait for the beetle to go back and forth on the platform, loses a lot of time, and that's where, when you're learning a game like Shovel Knight in the UD, you have to make a big decision, like, do you learn that skip first? Do you go for it in races? Do you go for it all the time? What do you do? And it's super hard to decide. Like, once you know something, usually you will try to go for it in the speedrun, but sometimes it's just not worth it, and those kind of decisions are impossible to make, to be honest. It's you have to get a lot of experience. That's why you should be racing all those tournaments if you have the time and the opportunity to do so.
So Fireman's going shopping, picking up some meal tickets. I think he's probably going to go for...
The
Actually,
10
I'm not sure how much
HP
health he's going to get here.
Usually it's at 10 HP
8,
you get up
9,
to, yeah.
10. Okay.
Nice. So he's super safe now. He's even going to buy some mana upgrade because he has the money leftovers from all that eating fest he went through. And yeah, LF did not do that, so that's an extra minute and a half he saved on Fireman. Getting to the end of the Fate Tower level 2, just getting ready to do the boss rush. That lead is insane. He's probably like way in first place. Maybe Cute Shadow is right behind them, but it's insane. And if only LF finished Inertia in time, on time, on just before, that would have mean like he was totally good getting that top 4 and that finals qualification.
He might still make it with a run like this. He needs, I think it's 147 points is what he's aiming for to challenge one of those spots. Fireman dying in the Tower of Fate. He got caught on the edge of the screen, and there was an enemy throwing things at him in kind of a weird way, and he couldn't really handle it, and he just jumps right into that pit. So not sure where he's at now mentally, but he's going to need to pick it up. There's not too much more Shovel Knight left to play, so I mean that's also just it's the end of the tournament for this weekend.
Yep.
So just get it together and close it out, Fireman. We're rooting for you.
I didn't notice, but Fireman's save file is named Digman, which is pretty cool. LF is maybe on PB pace, actually. He has to beat the game in less than 6 minutes, but is already done with Polar Knight, has 7 more bosses to go through, and then just the Enchantress fight 1 and 2. That could be like only 5 minutes left, and they have to go pretty full ham in those fights and not stopping for anything. But if they go for PB, even if they don't qualify, that's already like something very good, and that's happening to them. So getting good few Spectre Knights hit there. Spectre Knight is probably one of the worst on the refights. Trying to find those few last hits, get them. Very nice.
Part of the Spectre Knight fight is intentionally taking some damage to get those rapid hits in the corner. So when your health is stretched the way it is in these refights, it can be a little scary. It's the same reason why something like Plague Knight is particularly scary in the boss rush. But for now, we got Tinker, and LF has a really safe strat for Tinkers, and that doesn't go with like the Dust Knuckle hits into the Pogo.
Yeah, just go for
falling
the
charge slash. None
clean
of that.
hits. Oh, get knocked off, but gets on the shoulder pad, which is a nice little platform, gets the kill. And
right into the next Plague Knight fight, like we just mentioned, very tricky. He's got the chicken revealed, so he can go grab that at any point during the fight.
Goes for it right now. This fight is a little bit easier than the first one because you do not have all those blocks that breaks down, so the floor is always level and you can get way more Chaos Orb hits. Mole Knight usually goes pretty fast. He has the mana to get all the Chaos Orb hits. He's going to wait for him in the corner, and he's already done with them. A couple of hits to go. Come on, here we go.
Barely finding the last hit on those little legs sticking out of the ground, but it counts. Moving on to King, we're seeing Fireman about to start Black Knight number 3, and Tower of Fate started now for both the Mask and Kerpuik.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough because even if LF gets a PB around like 51 minutes, he still needs for the Mask and Kerpuik not to beat the game on time, and it looks still doable for them. 12 minutes to go to just beat the tower, the boss rush, and the Enchantress. It's actually like not too big of a deal. So,
the Mask dies there, trying to save himself with the propeller dagger, but that was not going to work out. So he is going to get set back quite a ways. This is the same death that happened to Fireman, and it's a pretty nasty one, honestly.
Proplo Knight is the final one. He doesn't care about HP, takes the chicken as even if he's already full. He didn't take too many hits. He's going to switch to the anchor, and boom, he's already done.
Nice, solid boss fight. Nice, solid run. It's more than solid, honestly, compared to his PB. It's been a fantastic run for LF. It's a 51-29.
He has to go for 51-20 to even have a chance to qualify. By the way, I do not know what we do if we have like two runners exactly at the same points. At the end, like 4th and 5th.
For 4th and 5th.
Maybe we go with time, but I do not know. I wrote the rules for the UD and I forgot what I wrote. So let's hope just one take the edge.
We'll hope for a clear victor.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who I would root for. I like the idea of the comeback. I like the idea of LF being unable to compete in one tournament and then
to
having
be honest,
another chance and then making the most of it.
If LF doesn't make it this month, as Chat is just saying right now, he's just going to crush it next month. In September, he's going to be the clear leader, I'd say. Cute Shadow and Skunkoff, if they qualify, will just make him lots of room to go for everything he needs. He's just making his way 50 minutes into there. I do not remember exactly how long the boss fight takes, but he can make it. He can get a PB, and even if it's not a PB, it's going to be a fantastic best race time, being up there with the best runners. The best race time for Shovel Knight is Magic Madman, Explode Your Ear, Devil Tifa at 49, and Mel West at 50 minutes, and then it's Melee at 52:49. So he would be top 5 best race time ever, which is already incredible.
Not the strongest fight to the Enchantress, start to the fight rather, for LF, and doesn't really have the options to do anything with her on the bottom of the screen. And he's not getting hits on these transfers back and forth, so needs to find 10 hits here. Sadly, he's not getting any.
Sadly, the first cycle did not go as well as expected. The ground is all destroyed, and yeah, he needs to find a few hits still. This is the worst Enchantress one I've seen in a long time. Getting a few more hits, gets it on the way back. 51-20, 30 there. Still has the final still has the final phase to go through, while Fireman is on the refights. The Mask is getting to Black Knight refight as Quick is done with that, so it's a tense race, tense finish.
I'm trying to do the math on just how many points LF needs to catch the Mask. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's almost 160, actually 158.
158.
So that's that train just passed, and now it's just like a matter of getting the best race time they get. Sadly, it's just all falling down to the entrance fight, and the flying machine was not too great for them in a couple of screens. So just a few mistakes and they're out there. But finishing in 50-30 is still incredible. As I said, like, this is the 5th best race time during the UD6 so far.
You had to come up so big in this situation that I didn't think it was going to even be close, but he made it so close. Mm-hmm. Did LF finishing way out in front on Shovel Knight. We'll go ahead and swap in Cute Shadow now and check in where they're at. The Mask is on the Black Knight fight, Fireman in the boss rush about halfway through, and we saw a Death Enchantress from Cute Shadow. There goes a lot of money not too helpful at this point. But it is pretty distracting in the middle of the fight here, and it's in a place where he probably can't collect it, so he's going to have to not worry about those giant moving bright gold objects in the middle of the screen. Focus on landing those hits on the Enchantress. Gets one swipe, but that's it on the dives, and it's going to have to deal with the bottom phase now, as Fireman has been on the Spectre Knight fight in the refight for a while and missed that one big hit. He needs one more.
He has 42 magic and does not go for any hit. I'm always skeptical of the choices. Some runners really choose not to take any magic hits on some of those bosses, but a few Propeller Dagger hits on Spectre Knights are super easy to land because he's so big, it takes like half of the screen. He's just like far away from you, but the Propeller Dagger does that just well for so. It's not too bad, but still, I really think there is like lots of room for improvement in those fights. That said, once again, the boss fights are super tough. That's where a lot of the meat of the speedrun is. Fireman has a lot of HP and is not losing too much. That means maybe next time he's going to be able to go for only 6 HP and not losing that minute and a half detour he took to buy all those.
Maybe, as he takes his 6th bit of damage here on Plague Knight. Definitely the hardest fight to do with low HP. And he's I guess he had the chicken. He could have gone for it at some point. So making the full use of his 10 health, picking it up at the end of the fight. He's going to have an extra there. As Cute Shadow finds the last hit on Enchantress 2. It's going to be finishing just under 55 minutes. And I mean, Skunkoff has definitely had a very bad Shovel Knight. We might be able to see where he's at some point, but it's looking like with that finish, Cute Shadow is going to be our first place finisher, and I'm honestly not sure where Skunkoff is going to end up.
Apparently, the French Restream is setting up an interview from LF, and they did fantastic, and I'm probably trying to go and listen to that and give you a little bit of insight on what happened. I'll try to set that up as soon as the race is done. So, yeah, so far everybody's on the boss rush. Sablier, everybody's going to have a hard time actually to beat the game in sub-hour right now.
Yeah, they're pretty close. It's an hour to make the cutoff for Shovel Knight, and they still have. I mean, in addition to the boss rush that Fireman is now done with, and Kerpeek is now at the start of with that death. So Fireman has a pretty good chance. Enchantress 1, Enchantress 2, in 3.5 minutes or so is doable. Kerpeek having to do the entire boss rush on top of it, I'm not sure. Sablier as well, also going to be in this situation, and I think the Mask. looking at PBs for these three players, the Mask's PB is not. It's only 96 points. He has not gotten a run under this 1 hour mark yet. So this is about what we expected. The same for Kerpuik with 92. But Sablier has a 124, a PB of 56.17. So has not been a great run for Sablier. Has not been a great day for Sablier. Has been well below PB on most games. Just kind of feeling the pressure of things a little bit. Is definitely capable of playing, with the best in the UD. I wouldn't be surprised if Sablier was one of the top 8 moving into grand finals, but today just really, really got away from them. So
yeah,
it's that's just kind of how it goes, I guess.
it's an intense game, to be honest. It's definitely going to be one of the hardest for the entire UD. So far it's been pretty crazy for everyone getting a time on Shovel Knight, as the chat is just saying, like beating the game in under an hour when the best time is usually around 50 minutes is just like super crazy.
Thanks so much, Twin00 for the sub to the channel. That's nice. Congrats to Blackman for the gifted sub.
I promised that if Fireman was making it, took a little bet. I was probably sure to lose, but I like taking bets with viewers when they say, "Hey, I'm pretty sure that runner is going to make it." It's just adding a little bit of incentive for the players, and it's like Fireman just did a fantastic job, so that gift subscription actually goes to them.
Well, he's not done yet. He's still got to still got an Enchantress fight to go here.
They can make it in sub hour. I believe in them.
We'll see. Still needs quite a few hits here. That big charge slash is going to count for a lot. Finds one more hit. Chaos Orb also going to do a lot of work here, throwing them out. She goes high, nice. So okay, there we go. Moving on to Enchantress 2. That hour mark, I don't know. We'll see. It's coming.
Alright, and final fight, 40 seconds to go for Fireman. Has to wait to suffer through the cutscene. If they get like an incredibly good fight, it's going to be sub-hour, for sure. If they have to wait for too many cycles to get up there, if they miss too many proper dagger hits, it's not going to work.
Oh, this cutscene is so long.
Yeah, it's even longer when you are just barely after the cutoff. You have to wait for Shield Knight here to get up there, and finally decides to go for it, gets 2 hits, and then is going to switch for the purple dagger hits, gets a lot of hits, Enchantress is going to go down, misses it, no! This is it.
Okay, so with stream delay and things, it's
no!
Okay, that's not going to do it, though. You definitely need to stay alive.
The heart rate was going over 200 BPM there. Oh my god, and doesn't make it.
I'm pretty sure, though, the points are still going to work out in Fireman's favor. Yeah. Not the glorious finish we wanted to Shovel Knight. We had a fantastic run from LF, and then just some players who you can't really fault them for not getting in under the time limit when their PBs are right on the cusp. This is a game where if you're not LF, most players have been quite unable to get close to their PBs in this game during a race. Kind of the same story as Inertia, I guess, but it's kind of what we expected. I think a lot of the players knew, like, Shovel Knight was gonna, I'm gonna try, but it didn't quite work out for a lot of players. And of the ones who qualified today, and even the ones who don't, I think there's going to be a moment where they sit down and go, okay, now I need to figure out Shovel Knight. I need to get, my 105, my 110, my 115 needs to be a 120, 130, 140, so that when I get to a race, I can actually finish the darn thing and get my 100 points.
get a PB around like 52, 53 minutes, just walking for the best route. Get a consistent time in races around like 57, 58. To be honest, I know this is super tough. It is incredibly hard, but you guys can do it. It's for sure. Obviously, a lot of people are involved in the UD. All those runners, big shout out to them. Be sure to follow them on Twitch. Be sure to support them, because we are going to have next week the final of the August tournament, and 4 runners are qualifying, and it's heartbreaking because it was so close. Look at the scores. Quick and LF were just right there for the entire tournament, but barely not making it. 6:05 for Quick, 6:13 for LF, and congrats to the Mask, Fireman, Skunkoff, and Cute Shadow up there on the top 4, qualified for next week.
We can see actually Ghost Death was 9 seconds off the cutoff in Shovel Knight. This was, I mean, Ghost Death was kind of already out of it, but had no time on the board for Shovel Knight, so it was another big question mark for Ghost Death, whether or not he could finish, and he kind of could. He was right there, right, 9 seconds. So,
but their first playthrough of Shovel Knight was on Wednesday. So I mean,
make sure that
whatever that guy,
4 days, okay,
yeah, whatever that guy is doing, it's clearly working for them. So he's streaming a lot, he's working a lot on his gaming. I know he has some competitive PUBG matches going on, plus this speedrunning, and yeah, it's just working for them. So just little extra effort, and he's looking very promising for next month's tourney with LF up there also.
This really big gap between 6th and 7th, Sablier and Ghost Death. Ghost Death, just a newer player, just needs more time, and Sablier just, I think probably after Aria of Sorrow, his heart wasn't in it. Maybe, I'm not sure, but the race nerves got to him and was unable to recover. But aside from that, really solid, close race. Races rather, close tournament, close top 8 for the other racers. Nice seeing all those 600 points. What is this? There's 24 points separating 3rd from 6th, so that's what I like to see. And congrats once again to our top 2 that we expected to see, Cute Shadow, Skunkoff, and joining them, Fireman and the Mask, are all going to be competing next weekend, where they will be playing all 10 games, 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday, and top 2 are going to move on to the grand finals.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty incredible. So they have LF live on the French stream, and he's currently presenting his speedrunning career. He started with UD2 and actually speedrunning Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES, and he got like into the UD because of the good mood that the community is setting up. Lots of races, just good vibe, learning together some games, and is pretty happy with the entire UD, how it's going, and being part of it since UD2. So that's been, once again, 3 years, 50 games learned. He has awesome performances, but for this season, he loves Shovel Knight. It's his best game. Clearly spent a lot of time on it, and had over 200 hours on the game. That's explained probably the consistency and how well he's doing during the tourneys, and got like that almost PB there. And he says like he's super lazy during UD6, so just goes for whatever he likes, and it's still working for them. I mean, so that's still very good. And yeah, he struggles a lot with DKC. He'd never played the game as a kid, and is not super motivated to learn the game. So I do not know how well he did last week. But actually, yeah, did not finish the game in time. So that's going to be a huge problem, even next month probably for them.
Yeah, that's you need to compete against all 10. We've seen some players get by on here and there with a 0, but come grand finals time, you're going to need to put up the time on all 10 games. So that's something that if he's thinking that far ahead, he'll have to tackle that eventually.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, he said that he's certainly going to keep on going. Sadly, he has a lot of work related constraints, so maybe not being able to stream or either the first September turn, but he's definitely will be there. Whether as a viewer or a player for the Ultimate Finals live in France, so we will get to meet them and have a good fun time. It's usually better to actually be just a viewer for the Ultimate Finals, but because you just have to relax and watch what's happening, no stress, just enjoying your time there. So he's in pretty good mood about all that. He's apparently not taking it too bad, not being able to make it today. He had a super good set of races both in July and August. So big props to LF and all of the other runners. I focused on them because they were giving that interview on the French stream. But obviously, we are going to hear a lot about Cute Shadow, Skunkoff, The Mask, and Fireman, who makes it they were first, second, third, and fifth on the first turn. Fireman had a lot of trouble on Cuphead, DKC, a little setback on Spectrable also, but who doesn't? So Fireman is going to have to work a lot to make it next week, but showed today that even without too good of a Shovel Knight, they can get up there, had a good trials, had a good Eye of Sorrow, but Skunkoff is just looking stellar with those 227 on trials too. No one understands how he could have made that happen, but we'll see all the 4 runners, all 10 games, that's 40 races happening next week, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be pretty awesome.
And stay tuned in the immediate future on twitch.tv/speedgaming, speedgaming 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we do get up to 5 today. Tons of stuff happening. A Link to the Past randomizer summer qualifiers continue. This is a really cool A Link to the Past randomizer tournament, and you're big deal, we just had one of those. This one has a cash prize. It is the Speed Gaming A Link to the Past randomizer summer tournament, and it's kind of crazy actually that's a thing, and it's becoming a thing, and more of it will happen. We got a special feature on Ratchet and Clank coming up on this channel in just a little bit. 4 p.m. Eastern time, so about an hour away. There's a Metroid Marathon happening on Speed Gaming 2 right now, and will continue for most of Saturday, and all kinds of other things happening all the time. So you can check the ! schedule to see what's going on there. And you can also see that in a week from now, that the UD will take over Speed Gaming Prime here, the main channel, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. CEST, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be here Saturday, Sunday doing the finals of the August tournament. So we really hope to see you there.
So thank you for watching, and see you around in the chat or next week. Same time, same place. Have a good one.